Chapter 257, Killing with Intent. Chapter 257, Killing with Intent. Huangpu Qingtian, why have you harmed my godsons? Dugu Zhantian barely contained the beast raging inside Huangpu Qingtian was calm, because they were in my way. And why were they in your way? They carried out Marshal's orders to prevent me from having a grudge fight. Tightening his fists, Dugu Zhantian's eyes spat fire. In other words, they aren't at fault here. No, they aren't. Dugu Zhantian was about to blow a gasket. Huangpu Qingtian said coldly, I also said that they are not fit to enter a grudge fight with me, not when they're so weak. Therefore it does not fall into defying Marshal's order. As for my fight with Steward Shuo, that was indeed a grudge fight. But your 5 sons were already downed by that point. So it can be said that they weren't hurt from doing their duty. Huangpu Qingtian knew Marshal Dugu was a man of integrity, so he used sophistry, saying that the 5 tigers had voluntarily, and of their own volition, stepped in his way and he thus inadvertently harmed them while running through them. Although pedantic, Dugu Zhantian was no moron to not notice the way he shifted blame. His eyes only grew colder as his knuckles popped. What you're saying is that my godsons were wounded without your intention. Precisely so. They ran into me and wounded themselves. Huangpu Qingtian jutted his chin and spoke righteously. And what of my 5th godson? What happened to his leg? And don't go saying he broke his leg running into you. Dugu Zhantian's eyes were bloodshot, his voice rumbling and thick with bloodthirst. Shaking his head, Huangpu Qingtian said, that wasn't me, it was Lin Xianfeng. Out of respect for you, Marshal, I was extremely lenient on your godsons. Where's that Lin Xianfeng then? I have a score to settle with him. Dugu Zhantian's eyes darted around with a slow stretch of the hand, a finger pointed out the gasping Lin Xianfeng. Huangpu Qingtian said, Marshal, there's no need for that now. Steward Shuo had, in front of everyone, taken matter into his own hands on behalf of his master. Is Marshal still going to continue? Dugu Zhantian spotted the pool of blood in which the pale face of the crippled Lin Xianfeng lay. His anger washed away in an instant. The guy was on his last leg, quite literally, given the circumstances. And even if saved, he'd be left a waste. His fate was far worse than his godsons. He suddenly felt awkward, even in the wrong. As if he was the accuser in this case, especially when they were worse off than his side by a dozen times. Zhuo Fan, of course, didn't think so. Availing of Dugu Zhantian's presence, he was giving his very best in blowing this sky high. All Marshal, don't listen to his lies. You have no idea of the cruelty and harassment he put us through. When I arrived, the 4 had ganged up on my young master, humiliating and trampling him. My loyalty to my master is unquestionable, coming to his rescue at once. But I was also a victim of their assault. It was impossible for me to fight the 4 alone, leaving me riddled with wounds. Out of carelessness and sheer coincidence, they made a mistake and lost a leg. But we are the victims here, we were the ones abused. Please give us justice, Marshal. Zhuo Fan's voice took a mournful and stuttering tone, filled with pain and agony. They saw our clan small and weak and decided to harass us. They are low and despicable people. Everyone there spurted blood. Even Huangpu Qingtian's face twitched. Even he, with his upbringing, was finding it hard not to flip out. What's with this guy? He twists everything. Although cunning, his speech was based on sophistry. Yet never had he seen someone of Zhuo Fan's ilk, running his mouth and spouting such outrageous lies. You rotten bastard. Look around you. Look at the witnesses. How can you be so despicable? Despite his perfectly reasonable thinking, Luo Yunchang also picked this time to add oil to the fire. Steward Shuo downplayed it slightly, out of worry for the Luo clan, but this is indeed the situation. Please help us, Godfather. With another round of blood from the crowd, all eyes were on Luo Yunchang. The hell? What is young Miss Luo doing copying Steward Shuo? Sigh, another one falls under Zhuo Fan's bad influence. It was followed by a round of sighs and head shaking. Oh, you poor thing. Coming from an upright clan yet unable to escape this man's devious corruption, Luo Yunchang and Zhuo Fan shared a sly grin, face twitching. Dugu Zhantian already had a taste of Zhuo Fan's grandstanding and wasn't buying it this time. Then again, this is the perfect chance to get back at Regent Estate. So, Dugu Zhantian nodded. I see, Huangpu Qingtian. I have banned grudge fights, and yet you all started harassing the weak with numbers. A much viler act than a mere grudge fight. Is this what you thought of my orders? I will take this matter to each of your houses and get a thorough explanation from them. Marshal, you only heard his side. Huangpu Qingtian was flustered for the first time, raising an eyebrow. Dugu Zhantian's eyes gleamed. Oh, one-sided. Ha ha ha, all right then, let's see what the witnesses say. Dugu Zhantian turned to the ones on the ground and asked, what Shuafan said, is it true? They looked at each other, clearly getting his drift. Since Dugu Zhantian was siding with Shuafan, of course they nodded, especially the 5 tigers of Tianyu. These guys were quite frank and upright but not dumb. Of course they'd help their kin. Face twitching, Huangpu Qingtian was swept by anger. They're clearly aiming for us. Marshal, I thought you were a righteous man, but now I see. Huangpu Qingtian clenched his fists and jaw with a bright smile. Dugu Zhantian mocked, see what? You heard them. Is there anything you would like to add? Humph, they are clearly siding with Shuafan, while on our side Lin Shenfeng had his leg ripped out. Huangpu Qingtian was finding it hard to restrain his towering anger, evident from his loud voice. Dugu Zhantian roared back, you have one victim while they are all down. So whose side is the real victim here? Who was it that harassed others with their power? Are you so damn blind? Huangpu Qingtian's eyes twitched. He had never been so furious in his life, most of all, never ever had he been taken advantage of. Yet here, against Shuafan, he could do nothing as the man had spun a trap around him. Even Dugu Zhantian was against him. He, who had always seen himself as a king, an emperor, was now reaching the limits of his patience. Soaring demonic dragon, your title sure is apt in going after me, heaven-shaking dragon lord. Humph, we'll just have to see how you will end. Huangpu Qingtian squinted, then up and left. He knew arguing any longer would be a waste of time. Shuafan raised an eyebrow and pointed at him. Marshal Dugu, you're just gonna let him go? He just threatened me. My poor little life is on the line here. Tilda. A sudden ripple spread and Dugu Zhantian jumped in front of Shuafan, releasing a ripple of his own. A boom reverberated as the space warped visibly. Huangpu Qingtian snorted at Shuafan in anger. Soaring demonic dragon, you're lucky this time. But when the esoteric debate starts, when the 7 houses battle, hope you'll have the same amount of luck then. And he took his 2 allies while dragging Lin Shenfeng with them. Dugu Zhantian looked at him in shock. This kid, he is a peak profound heaven expert, yet can use killing with intent that only a radiant stage expert can use. He truly is the #1 talent in Tianyu. His future is limitless. The others jerked in fright. Huangpu Qingtian had long surpassed them. He was on a whole different level. The next time they meet, they might not even come out alive. Against killing with intent, no amount of speed would help. Shuafan only chuckled, a mere bluff. Dugu Zhantian towered behind him and cuffed him. What damn bluff? That's power. Do you have any idea how dangerous that was? I know you're a body cultivator and perhaps can win in a brawl against him, but that was a soul attack, killing with intent. You'd never even realize when your life was taken from you. I see no way for you to win against that monster. Dugu Zhantian eyed them and sighed. The others frowned and sighed as well. Shuafan had given a thread of hope to all, but now it was all crushed to dust. No one beneath a radiant stage could survive an intent attack. Shuafan had his freaky ability, but not even that would save him. Yet the man in question hardly cared. He had stopped caring for as long as 5 years ago. Chapter 258, Conscription. Chapter 258, Conscription. Dugu Zhantian had some soldiers take the wounded to the marshal's residence for immediate treatment. Yet none of them noticed a spindly figure further away. Watching them upon closer look, one would identify him as unwonted contriver Lung Wuchang, Regent Estate Steward. Lung Wuchang twirled his mustache as he kept watching. Shuafan in particular, this kid is not as heartless as I thought. It had been 6 hours since they arrived at the marshal's temporary residence in Dragon Cloud City. Time in which the wounded were placed in a side wing and administered pills. Luo Yunchang and Ninga, the only ones who came out unharmed from this ordeal, were the caretakers. As for Shuafan, he was there as well, expressing his heartfelt thanks to his 3 paralyzed allies. Thank you all for such hard work. If it weren't for your help, our clan's line would have been severed. Zhuo Fan held each of their hands. Long Jie and Long Kuei felt odd seeing the kind and gentle smile on his face. They had been arduous in cultivating these past 5 years, just so they could bridge the gap between them and this monster. And yet he just showed up, and instead of getting closer, they had only fallen farther behind. Even though this guy was still a shameless bone-tempering cultivator, how could his power be classified as one? As this was Long Xingyun's first time seeing this freak in the flesh and in action, he was quite moved. Brother Zhuo, now I see what my father was thinking. Only after seeing you have I realized how much time I've been wasting. Sigh, youth is wasted on the young. But even so, you should live your life to the fullest and take some time off to enjoy it. Ha ha ha, don't take it to heart. Zhuo Fan patted his shoulder, but the more he paid attention the more Long Xingyun felt it was fake. Is this your way of consoling me? Xie Tianshang's eyes were filled with fighting spirit, wishing nothing more than to jump on his legs and have a go with the man. Zhuo Fan, once I'm healed, how about we have a match? Zhuo Fan blinked, completely not getting what he was going for. We just met and never have I gotten on your bad side, so why do you want to fight me? Ignore him. My elder brother is a martial fanatic. He wants to fight any expert that catches his eye. Xie Tianyang jabbed. Having known Zhuo Fan for so long, he had no qualms whatsoever. Zhuo Fan nodded. Ah, another one. I see. Just like Elder Li. It's best that I keep my distance. He wasn't so idle as to waste time sparring with a martial fanatic every day, so Zhuo Fan gave him a wide berth, going over Xie Tianyang. Hey, wait, you didn't answer me. Xie Tianshang watched Zhuo Fan with a fervent gaze. He was sorely wishing right now that he could just jump and exchange hundreds of moves with Zhuo Fan. But would Zhuo Fan listen? He treated martial fanatics as basket cases. Tangling with him would only net Zhuo Fan a huge waste of time, and so, Xie Tianshang's grumblings were firmly and undoubtedly ignored. Zhuo Fan walked next to his little brother instead, and knocked his head a few times. Brother Xie, you did a good job today. I must say, you sure gave your all for Ninga. Zip it. My life belongs to Ninga. Rolling his eyes, Xie Tianyang was quite frank, making the nearby Xue Ningxiang blush and glare back. She was clearly signaling not to spout such things around Zhuo Fan. Zhuo Fan laughed carefree. Xie Tianyang's eyes turned serious, his voice tinted with worry. Zhuo Fan, do you always stand out wherever you go? You've got my Ninga to swoon over you every time she sees you. Can't you tone it down a little so I can have a shot? Shuddering, Zhuo Fan remained silent. Xie Tianyang seemed to be joking, but how could Zhuo Fan not sense the worry within? If this went on, the three's relationship would become more complicated or, worse, break apart. Zhuo Fan sighed after a moment. Sorry, that's how heavens made me. If I don't show off, who else will? Just focus on getting better. Patting his shoulder, Zhuo Fan left with a stiff smile. Xie Tianyang laughed dejectedly. He knew Zhuo Fan had yet to make a decision on this and was making a tactical retreat. Or was it an attack? Although he made himself seem ruthless, who could guard against feelings creeping up on oneself? He went around spreading thanks to all the clan's helpers, including but not limited to the 4 tigers. But the tigers saw him as an enemy, something he couldn't wrap his head around as to why. I stole no wife of yours, so what the hell is with the glares? But when he reached the final patient, he spun on his leg and walked away. Stop. The charming voice came from Chu Qingcheng, who was watching him in reproach. Why you aren't going to even talk to me? Iris and Peony overseers were staring daggers, as if accusing him of abandoning his wife. Ah, thank you Drifting Flowers Edifices, for helping our clan in our desperate hour. That's not it and you know it. Chu Qingcheng cut him off. I just want to know why. Why didn't you see me one last time before leaving Drifting Flowers City? Steeling himself, Zhuo Fan said, I killed and took what I needed. I fulfilled my goal and had no reason to stay. No reason at all? Chu Qingcheng blinked. Her pretty eyes demanded an answer. Zhuo Fan didn't know how to respond. Then a sudden giggle came. Steward Zhuo, Marshal is calling you. Leave things here to me. Luo Yunchang came over with a smile, faking obliviousness. Saved by the bell, Zhuo Fan grabbed the excuse like his lifeline and bobbed his head. Then I'll go right now. Young miss, take good care of them. And he was gone. Despite the doe eyes Chu Qingcheng was giving him, Luo Yunchang turned a hard stare at Chu Qingcheng. Edifice Lord Chu, Steward Zhuo is a bore. If he has hurt you with his words or actions, Please forgive him. I'll be taking care of you in his place. Luo Yunchang's words were full of propriety and good nature, but the true meaning was, his mind. Chu Qingcheng had taken care of Drifting Flowers edifices for so many years since an even younger age than Luo Yunchang. How could she not hear the veiled threat? She laughed coldly. You're far too kind. Zhuo Fan's transgressions are too grave to measure. How could I possibly ask clan head to take the blame? I will have Zhuo Fan supply me with the appropriate resolution. But thank you for your offer, young miss. I.e. This is between me and Zhuo Fan. You've got no business here, so scram. Sparks were flying off between them soon after the others looked away from the cat fight and lamented, sigh, this is a woman's war. It's best we don't get caught in between. But Xue Ningxiang looked on in distress, feeling somewhat excluded. Going back to the culprit behind all this, Zhuo Fan was speeding towards Marshall's house across from the wounded ward in jubilation. Perfect timing. He was truly caught in the trap back there. Who would have thought facing Chu Qingcheng was more exhausting than fighting Huangpu Qingtian? He'd rather go against 100 Huangpu Qingshans than see Chu Qingcheng again. But when he entered Marshall's home, the old guy laughed heartily, putting him on high alert. Ha ha ha, you came, kid. Sit, I have something to tell you. Dugu Zhantian laughed and gestured at the chair nearby. Zhuo Fan was on guard as he eased into the chair. Dugu Zhantian's critical eye from his seat of honor had Zhuo Fan's hair stand on end. All Marshal, you wanted to see me? Zhuo Fan broke the silence. Dugu Zhantian grinned. It's nothing much, just your conscription. Conscription? Zhuo Fan shook his head vehemently. No no no. I am not army material. Find someone else. Glaring, Dugu Zhantian's beard trembled as he cursed, cut the crap. Who on earth is born a soldier? Even that brat Yun Hai got trained into shape by me. With your talents, a year tops, and you'll be taking my job. If you're so confident, go find someone else. Why do you want me? Zhuo Fan shook his head. Dugu Zhantian sighed and his eyes were glazed with worry. It's easy to train an army, but it's so hard to find a good array master. In the field of war, there are many array masters using their skills in the form of formations. We are sorely lacking in array masters, and that has made our recent losses disastrous. Don't look at me. I'm a meathead. I don't know anything when it comes to arrays or formations. Zhuo Fan made up a lie, but Dugu Zhantian wouldn't have it. He had looked into the kid before calling him. Such a flimsy lie wouldn't fly with him. Hey, oh please. I already know everything. Your old clan head has long been dead and you are the one running the show. Including the 4 5th grade arrays. Dugu Zhantian's eyes shined when he reached this point. He was sorely lacking an outstanding array master and wanted to have Zhuo Fan without fail. The latter felt trapped in the old guy's gaze and didn't know how to get away. He felt like crying. This was exactly why he wanted to slink through Dragon Cloud City and never cross paths with the Marshal. He already saw this coming and wanted to avoid it for as long as possible. Chapter 259, The God of War's Fright. Chapter 259, The God of War's Fright. All Marshal, I truly cannot do this. Please find someone else. Zhuo Fan shook his head and rose to leave Wush Tilda. In a flash of blue, the dragon-slaying crescent blade was nailed in front of him, followed by, why? Zhuo Fan was in despair. Isn't it obvious? I don't want to. Since he was asked for a reason, Zhuo Fan had to oblige. So he stuck out his neck and refused. They say that a good man doesn't enlist. Bullshit. In reply to his most eloquent words, Dugu Zhantian spat in his face. Those are the words of frigging morons. Zhuo Fan, you are a wise man, so how can you lower yourself to a commoner's thinking? Also, did you not take the helm of the Luo clan after the clan head's death, looking after the siblings? Why then? I only see loyalty. Kid, your actions speak for yourself, of your loyalty and devotion, so what's the problem with being loyal to one's nation? Isn't that the same? It should be the same thing to you. Why do you insist on avoiding enlisting? The walls were quite thin here and the wounded next door heard Dugu Zhantian's raving loud and clear. Dugu Zhantian wants Zhuo Fan in the army, but can he reign in this soaring demonic dragon? Luo Yunchang and Chu Qingcheng thought this as well. Even though their glaring never faltered, their ears were idle to pick up on the marshal's shout. Taking a deep breath, Zhuo Fan gritted his teeth. This old guy just won't quit. And sighed, Marshal Dugu, we are neither friends nor enemies. Please refrain from dragging me into this hell. How is the army and fighting for your nation, hell? Dugu Zhantian was stunned. Zhuo Fan squinted and roared, as they say, after 3 years in the army, even an ugly broad would look like a courtesan. This will deal a devastating blow to my standards and ruin my prospects to raise a family. The girls in the wounded ward stifled their giggles. While Luo Yunchang and Chu Qingcheng Shaw had an active imagination, evident by their red cheeks, then their eyes met and jealousy reared its ugly head. Which one of us is that punk going to take to raise a family? The 4 tigers of Tianyu and Luo Yunhai were awkward, to say the least. They've been in the army for 5 years. Did that mean their standards were out of whack? But Dugu Zhantian's shout came soon after to save their image. More crap. Where the hell did you hear that nonsense? How could 3 years lead to such a drastic change? The 5 in the ward nodded. Well said, Marshal. Dugu Zhantian then followed with, that only happens after 5 years. My 4 godsons need 6 years, by the looks of them, to see any girl a babe. As for Yunhai, it's too soon to tell. The 5 wanted to crawl into a corner and die. The feel of the others' eyes on them only made it worse. Godfather, enlist him if you want to, but why in God's name are you dragging us into this? It was fine and all if these old army stories helped, but all you are doing is making yourself look bad. Us as well. What a rotten godfather. The 5 sighed and buried their heads in the pillows. Dugu Zhantian was being serious now. None of that matters. Didn't I tell you? You'll be a soldier for 1 year, then be my staff officer. Those things don't apply to you. Why not make me one from the start? Zhuo Fan scratched his head. Dugu Zhantian squinted and snapped, impossible. In my army one needs to do military service. One can only be promoted based on merits. How can I just make you one from the start? Everyone will object. But don't worry, once in the corps, I'll give you plenty of chances to show your ability and you'll be promoted in no time. Zhuo Fan sighed. Seeing Dugu Zhantian so stubborn, like a hustler, he left Zhuo Fan without a way to deal with him. Fine, but on one condition. Zhuo Fan nodded in the end. Dugu Zhantian's eyes sparkled. Name it. I'll do my best to accommodate you. All Marshal, would you be so kind as to lend me your status for a short month? I could get used to being a marshal myself. You think the army is a game? Dugu Zhantian shook his head, but then he eyed Zhuo Fan skeptically. What for? What else? To sweep the land and pacify the empire. Zhuo Fan roared his loyalty. Dugu Zhantian said in a rush, stop messing around. This army can't move as you wish. Hey, it's fine. Won't I have the appropriate rank a year later? At that time, I can just kill and smash whoever and whenever. Zhuo Fan giggled, panicking inside. Dugu Zhantian now realized he had only paid attention to Zhuo Fan's talent and not his many remarkable feats. I can't take the same approach I took with Luo Yunhai when teaching him. Or when he gets the army at his beck and call, he'd leave the nation wide open for attack. His eyes were swiveling, unclear what choice was best here. No, I can't have him fly through the ranks. I'll have to stamp out his rebellious nature in the army. Zhuo Fan had a knowing grin. Hey, I know what you're planning. But no matter, I'm the best there is when it comes to roping someone to my side. It won't take me even a year to turn the 3 million Dugu army into the Zhuo army. At that point, being a general or not would hardly make a difference. You don't say. I am giving my all here, but who knows when we will have to face Regent Estate on the field of battle. But if you think you can wrest control of one of the 4 pillars, the Empire's army, then be my guest. Zhuo Fan laughed. I have never thought about it like that. But now, Marshal, you have to enlist me. Even if you have your whole army infected with gayness rather than some twisted broads, I'd still go for it. No. It seems someone had a change of heart. Dugu Zhantian was frantically shaking his hands and sweating buckets. That was close. I almost welcomed the devil with open hand. Granted he was talented, but if there was one thing he truly excelled at, it was blowing things out of proportion. In the off chance I can't tame him, the Dugu army will be under his thumb and will corrupt the Empire's greatest weapon. I better reconsider whether to let this guy in, Dugu Zhantian said bashfully. Zhuo Fan, since you find enlisting to be such a pain. I won't force you. No, I think it'll be a blast, all martial. No, I've never forced anyone to do anything in my life. It's best you stay and look after the Luo clan. Oh right, the 3 house lords are here as well. I better go see them. What about my enlistment? Zhuo Fan shouted after the scampering Dugu Zhantian. Zhuo Fan watched the mighty and awe-inspiring Dugu turn into a scaredy cat with a snicker. TCH, I get far more out of developing the Luo clan than stealing your 3 million army. Then again, having Dugu army by my side is not bad either. Zhuo Fan mused, his eyes flashing. Dugu Zhantian just left the room and turned to the wounded ward. It seemed that Sword Marquis abode, Veiled Dragon Pavilion, and Drifting Flowers Edifice's leaders were also present. They all saluted Dugu Zhantian. Thank you, Marshal, for coming to their rescue. No thanks needed. This is my responsibility. Although someone else saved them in the end, while I was only a mediator. Dugu Zhantian waved the leaders. Chuckled grandmother, then frowned. Marshal, I was meaning to ask. Are you intent on conscripting Zhuo Fan? Could I ask you to postpone it until after the esoteric debate? Of course. As for conscripting, I still need to consider it. There's no need to fret. Dugu Zhantian stated. Zhuo Fan's vision of the army had scared the crap out of him. The kid seems capable of anything. He may very well have a way of turning the Dugu army into his personal army, and he wasn't about to give his army away just for one array master. Dugu Zhantian was thankful he came back to his senses and avoided a disaster. Zhuo Fan took this moment to enter and greet the house lords. The 3 nodded in reply. They could finally breathe easier seeing him safe and sound. To be blunt, there would be no Luo clan without Zhuo Fan, the truest underdog. Luo clan wouldn't stand a chance in the esoteric debate, whether as an ally or enemy, but with Zhuo Fan back in town, the clan was in full force. Steward Zhuo, the entire Luo clan is injured. We can't make it to tomorrow's fight. Will you, as their steward, step forth? Grandmother smiled widely, hoping to see the miracle that was Zhuo Fan in action after a 5-year break. Shrugging, Zhuo Fan said, of course, it is my duty to represent the Luo clan. It is time for the Luo clan to stand abreast with all of you. That will depend on Steward Zhuo's first battle. Long Yifi raised an eyebrow. They all looked at each other and burst out laughing, all eager to see Zhuo Fan put on a good show tomorrow. Chapter 260, We Will Kill Zhuo Fan. Chapter 260, We Will Kill Zhuo Fan. The next day, Dragon Cloud City's fighting stage was enveloped by a roaring crowd shouting their cheers on the stage. 2 youths stood thrilled and panting, surrounded by either dead or wounded people. The winner of today's battle hails from Crescent Sword City, the Shui clan. They are advancing to the final battle. A profound heaven expert stepped on stage and gestured at the youths. The crowd exploded with applause, raising the excitement of the 2. They left the stage and walked to their cheering clan. Big brother, second brother, congratulations. Shui Ningxiang gave them a hug and a sweet smile. The 2 were Shui Gang and Shui Lin. After the horrors of Blue Expanse City, Xie Tianyang saved them and their clan became Sword Marquis Abode's vassal. It was the only way they could have joined the esoteric debate. Ganger, Lina, you've done well. You are now ready to join the final battle and help Sword Marquis Abode's young masters in their fight. Shui Wanlong laughed with pride. Remember, never let down our clan and protect the 2 young masters. Patriarch Shui Dingtian nodded at the side. Thanks to Xie Tianyang, their clan was under Sword Marquis Abode's wing, cared for and well supplied. But this left them uneasy, and they were going to use this chance to repay their help. This was the reason for joining the esoteric debate. Shui Gang and Shui Lin nodded, filled with battle spirit. Xie Tianyang stood next to Shui Ningxiang, sighing, Uncle, why did you let the brothers join such a cruel battle? This time's battle will be far more deadly and vicious than any of the past ones. I fear. Second young master, I have made my decision. We cannot go on receiving Sword Marquis Abode's grace without giving anything back. Please give us this chance to show our gratitude. Shui Wanlong cupped his hands. Xie Tianyang sighed. The profound heaven expert on the stage suddenly said, the next fight will be between Drifting Flower City's Dawn Clan and Flood City's Yu Clan. 2 familiar figures walked on stage. Xie Tianyang's eyes brightened. Who knew we'd see them here? Aren't they Brother Dong and Sister Wana? You know them as well? Shui Ningxiang was startled. Xie Tianyang looked at her instead. Ninga, how do you know them? Drifting Flowers edifices and Sword Marquis abode are allies. We met when the two houses gathered for negotiation. Brother Dong is somewhat frivolous, but Wana is very nice. Ninga smiled. How do you know them? Disciples of the 7 houses hardly ever meet with people from second-rate clans. Ah, we met in Drifting Flowers City. I hear that Dong Xiaowan and the kid have something going on between them. Xie Tianyang grinned, thinking of having a little payback. Xue Ningxiang looked closer at Dong Xiaowan and muttered, no wonder she never said anything when the topic about who she likes came up. Correct, the 2 Dong siblings were those Dongs because of their ties with Zhuofan back in Drifting Flowers City, and having gotten familiar with Drifting Flowers edifice's leaders, the Dong clan had been on a swift rise. They had long outstripped the title of vassal clan and moved to Drifting Flowers City to become their trusted aide. The old master of the Dong clan couldn't be happier and stated that they had to go and see their most treasured benefactor in the flesh. Of course, such a thing wasn't so easy to achieve, not with how busy Zhuofan was. If he wasn't blowing something up, he was beating the life out of someone. The likes of him could hardly squeeze a meeting between his murderous rampage and endless mayhem. Thanks to Drifting Flowers edifice's help, Dong Tianba had entered the profound heaven stage, displaying his majestic air on today's stage. In but half an hour, he and his sister won over their opponents and arrived next to their clansmen and friends. Young Master Xie, Uncle Xie, Sir Xie, Brothers Xie, how do you do? Dong Tianba cupped his hands in pride. Dong Xiaowan bowed as well with a smile. The others nodded. While Xue Gang had eyes only for Dong Xiaowan and her charming smile, everyone could tell what he was thinking. Brother Xue, how have you been? I never thought our clans would enter the final battle. We will be fighting alongside, it seems. Ha ha ha, a portly man came over. Dong Tianba and Dong Xiaowan cupped their hands. Dad. Xue clan greeted in kind, but only when he saw Xie Tianyang did the old man greet back. He was the Dong clan head. Dong clan head pointed at Xue Gang. Young master is of great talent. Could I be so bold as to ask if you're married? No. Xue Dingtian smiled, his meaning clear. Dong clan head nodded and smiled at his daughter. What a fine coincidence, neither is my daughter. I find our clans so friendly that I was wondering. Dad. Dong Xiaowan gave him the stink eye and was sullen. Xue Ningxiang could see herself in her and shook her head. The two already had someone and were not going to just change their minds at the drop of the hat. Meanwhile, the profound heaven expert on the stage said, the next fight is between Sunspire City's Hong clan and Blue Expanse City's Sun clan. Shuddering, the Xue clan turned to the stage. Blue Expanse City used to be their turf while being Hell Valley's vassal. Since betraying their patron, Blue Expanse City fell under another clan's jurisdiction. Bluntly put, the Sun clan was their replacement. Hell Valley's brand new lapdog, the Sun clan, only sent a man and a woman to fight against 50 bone-tempering experts led by 2 profound heaven cultivators. Such power among second-rate clans made it a seeded clan, closely approaching the qualifications to be a first-rate clan. Against such strength, the Sun clan sent merely 2, a really odd pair. Their eyes released a bloody glow, and closely resembled monsters rather than humans. Not even their appearances could be distinguished. The sight of them standing there sent shivers among many, as if they were demons who sprang out of hell. But upon closer look, they were only peak bone-tempering cultivators. Here, 2 peak bone-tempering cultivators want to mess with 50 experts. The leading youth snickered. From your demonic look, living must have been hard and you've come for the sweet release of death, right? Ha ha ha. The others laughed as well. That demonic man, however, was wrapped in black energy as it suddenly jumped from him with a roar. A veritable fountain of blood bloomed, while the Hong clan youth fell with a perplexed look. He was still wondering how a peak bone-tempering cultivator killed him. SSS tilde. The others gasped. Hong clan's laughter died and watched the pair of enemies in shock. How could a fresh profound heaven expert die in one blow? A sneak attack for sure. With a shout, the 50 men from Hong clan stormed the pair. The 2 only had a creepy grin as they turned into black mist and roamed among them. The slaughter began. Not of the pair, but of those 50 experts, as the 2 crazed monsters were unleashed upon them. Wails, sobbing, and horror grated on the audience's ears. In just 15 minutes, they were the only ones standing, while the corpses around them had their throats ripped out. Blood soaked into the arena and the dead stare of the bodies gave a glimpse into the cruelty they had just suffered. Xue Ningxiang had long since covered her eyes. Xie Tianyang's brow was furrowed. What made these guys act with such brutality? The girl on stage suddenly snapped her head back and pointed at the Shui clan with a nasty grin. Traitor of Hell Valley, you will die in the final battle, by our hands. None of you will live. We will cleanse the Hell Valley of its traitors. Your time will soon come. Hi hi hi. The Shui clan felt a shiver run down their very core. This pair was way too abnormal. Not just the sons, but even the father and patriarch felt their hair stand on end. Xie Tianyang stepped up and shielded Shui Ningxiang as he roared, "Stop barking. I would like to see you try and touch the Shui clan. Second young master Xie, our house lord's son will deal with you and we will deal with the traitorous Shui clan." Snickering, the girl threw her head back the creepy way she talked, and her posture only worked to deepen one's fear. The man next to her said, "Don't forget our main objective, the Luo clan. Shui clan is just a side dish." "You're after the Luo clan?" Shui Ningxiang was worried. On the other hand, Xie Tianyang felt relief. A few days back he would have been worried as well, but not now, because the Luo clan had recovered their pillar, the demon archangel Fan with him around. These weirdos looked like imps in comparison. Going after the Luo clan was a death sentence, but the man saw Shui Ningxiang's distress and reveled in it. "Yes, we will find the Luo clan and slaughter them all. Especially that Shui Fan. We will tear him limb from limb." Shui Ningxiang's pure heart was stuck in her throat, vexed over Shui Fan's safety. "Brother Shui, two bad men are after you." While Xie Tianyang almost burst out laughing. "Dude, have you even seen Shui Fan? Have you seen his power? What is your boasting based on? Hot air. Not even a moron will believe such a lame joke." But then he saw Shui Ningxiang sick with worry and amended his thoughts with a twitch of his cheek. Ninga excluded. She was no moron, just naive. Chapter 261, Limelight. Chapter 261, Limelight. "Look, Hell Valley's men are here." Someone from the crowd shouted, and everyone turned their heads to see Yuanshan and his elder detail. He stood on the highest point with a somber look, flanked by Yu Ming and the rest of their other disciples participating in the final battle, as this place was the fighting grounds for third and second-rate clans. With how not even first-rate clans would come here to watch, least of all the 7 houses. There were no honorary seats for them. What stirred the biggest shock was the sudden appearance of Hell Valley, taking seat at the highest position. They could see the whole stage from there, but it was also a strategic position to emphasize the usual disdain the 7 houses had for these puny clans. But what was up with this sudden arrival? Who had caught their eye? Were they going to enjoy the show alongside them, or was there a new star on the rise no one knew about? If it was the latter, who was this person and what was he capable of to garner such ostentatious audience? The crowd grew restless with their speculations. Sun Clan's creepy guy noticed Yuanshan's imposing figure and showed a morbid smile. "See? Valley Lord, you came to personally watch us crush your clans. This is how much Hell Valley values us. Yeah, we're not like those Shui traitors. Valley Lord finds us indispensable." Sun Clan's creepy girl showed a morbid smile herself. Shui Clan only gave the duo a cursory glance, while being concerned about Hell Valley's real intentions. Hell Valley came to cheer for the Sun Clan? How is that even possible, when they have never shown such care for any vassal before? Xie Tianyang mocked, "Cocky brats, Yuanshan isn't so bored as to watch a couple of aberrations." "Say that again. What else would Valley Lord you be here for? There's only us around. Who is Hell Valley's vassal?" The girl roared. Xie Tianyang shrugged. The 7 houses only ever cared about each other and never about some squirming ants trying to get some praise. "You're disillusioned if you think he came here to cheer for you." And then another sudden cry of shock came, followed by another unexpected arrival. And while Hell Valley's men were emitting deadly auras, the newcomers were graceful women with thin veils drifting flowers edifice. Grandmother was in the lead as Chu Qingcheng was still nursing her wound. Behind her were her entire overseer contingent and the drifting flowers edifice's disciples participating in the final battle. Even Xiao Dandan was among them, darting her eyes around and looking for her special someone. Here comes another lovesick lass. That punk will be so annoyed," Xie Tianyang snickered. Dawn Clan head puffed up his chest and took on a prideful air. "Ha ha ha, I didn't expect Drifting Flowers Edifice's overseers to come support us. Our Dawn Clan is so cherished. We may be Drifting Flowers Edifice's trusted aid, but to receive such care, ha ha ha." The guy was grinning from ear to ear and making the Shui clan envious. His position seemed to be so high that even the edifice lord came in person. Only Xie Tianyang sighed. It seems narcissism is an inherent trait of these vassals. Not just aberrations are susceptible to it, but even normal people. What in the hell gave you the idea that the 7 houses came to see you specifically? Then came the third cry of the day. Shui clansmen watched overwhelmed with joy. Why? Because Sword Marquis abode Xie Xiaofeng was leading Xie Tianshang and his elders over Patriarch Shui Dingtian was touched to the core as he showed off to the Dawn clan head. Ha ha ha, clan head, Sword Marquis abode values us quite a lot as well. Wait. He didn't get to finish his haughty words, as Xie Tianyang interrupted him. Everyone, I know fully well my words may sound crass, but could you cool off for a second and stop with the self-important attitude? Those house lords haven't even looked at you once, so how can you say they've come for you? The sudden wake-up call made them realize the wisdom in his words. If not for us, then who? This was a fighting stage for the 7 houses' vassals. Xie Tianyang shook his head. If there was anything the 7 houses paid attention to, besides each other of course, was strength. Who else but that punk could stir up so many of them to come here? While they were vexed by this conundrum, Pil King Hall appeared with a 4th cry. Yang Bogong led Yang Bangui and Yang Fu with his elders over. They were soon followed by Merry Woods' house Lord Lin coming with his elders and a bouncing Lin Shenfeng. After a night of healing, Lin Xuanfeng's wound was closed. Even though he hopped about with a pale face. The audience was amazed. Is this forest fleeting dragon, one of the 6 dragons and 1 phoenix? Why does he have only 1 leg? How would he fleet through the forest now? Few were aware of the circumstances regarding forest fleeting dragon's misery. How the vile soaring demonic dragon ripped his leg clean off. But the biggest shock of all was what came next. The head of the 7 houses, Regent Estate. Huangpu Chenyuan was leading the group, with Regent Estate steward, Lung Wuchang on his left, and his eldest, the head of 6 dragons and 1 phoenix, heaven-shaking dragon Lord Huangpu Qingtian on his right. Behind them was a team of profound heaven elders, 30 in number. The frightening display made everyone's hair stand on end. The other 6 houses also paused at their entrance. Regent Estate's power was unquestionably the highest among the houses. It had the ambition to swallow the others for good reason. It would have been a waste of their might if they didn't aim for at least this much. Under the riveting gazes of the crowd, Huangpu Chenyuan made his way forward with a regal air and boundless power that stopped anyone from breathing within 300 meters. Only when Regent Estate took the foremost position did the man slowly withdraw his power, but the damage, or deterrence, was done. In his wake, the people were left shivering and gasping. That was enough to rouse up even the narcissistic trio of clans from their arrogance. The presence of all the 7 houses had nothing to do with them at all. Thinking about what loudmouths they were seconds ago, they started blushing like crazy. The Dong, Shui, and even the Sun clan's aberrations were stiff and awkward. This only helped to fuel their curiosity. Why were they all here? For whom? Xie Tianyang knew it all along. Of course, the profound heaven expert on the stage stood on pins and needles under the stare of all those mighty figures. He shakily took out the roster. He was the king of this stage, but not anymore. 'Cause now he was a bottom feeder among all these big shot. He swallowed down while shaking and shouted, "The next fight will be between Zephyr City's WN clan and Windgaze City's Luo clan." Every head turned to the dark entrance of the stage to see the greatest underdog in this esoteric debate, Luo clan. Even though the Luo clan's 28 strong men were quite something, the more they advanced the harder it became. Case in point, they left the last battle while supporting each other. Their opponent, the WAN clan, was a renowned second-rate clan. It even had 3 profound heaven youths. The crowd was eagerly awaiting for the Luo clan, but their prospects at winning were slim at best. Tap, tap, tap. A light noise was heard as Luo Yunhai was coming out on crutches, leaning on his sister towards the stage. The crowd's shock passed and was replaced by sighs. They all saw Luo Yunhai's valor and might, fearless as a tiger. And this tiger was an indispensable force in the Luo clan's team. Yet now he had an unexplained wound, which only crippled their chance of victory even more. WN clan's 20 strong men were already on the stage and were now snickering. Victory's ours. But then a plain figure slowly made itself noticed by walking behind the siblings. He caught the attention of all the houses. Regent Estate, Hell Valley, and their other 2 allies bore a deep hatred for Zhuofan. They suddenly released a deadly aura that made the audience shiver. It all makes sense now. The 7 houses came for him. Playing with his flickering thunder ring, Zhuo Fan walked without a care in the world. His deep gaze, his far-off look seemed to find everyone beneath him. This was how Zhuo Fan followed after Luo Yunchang. With a charming and faint smile, the biggest shock was received by those who didn't know Zhuo Fan. Who is he? Why are the 7 houses here for him? Dong Tianba and Dong Xiaowan went slack-jawed. They never ever thought they'd meet him here. Dong Xiaowan in particular, her gaze was filled with complicated emotions. Joy, sadness, and a hint of relief. Xue Wanlong and Xue Dingtian were shocked as well. They never thought that the young brat they met in Allbeast mountain range would appear here as soaring demonic dragon. The shout had caused another round of shock among the crowd as their eyes never strayed from Zhuo Fan. He is the Luo clan's strongest. The same soaring demonic dragon on par with 6 dragons and 1 phoenix. The Luo clan's main force has come out in the open. The crowd watched eagerly, thrilled to witness a good show. Chapter 262, Cheerleaders Groupies. Chapter 262, Cheerleaders Groupies. Old Pang, stay here and look after them. Zhuo Fan spoke behind him to Captain Pang and the young guards before walking on stage alone. The crowd wondered, alone against Wan clan's 20 strongest. But then recalled that he had a title akin to the 6 dragons and 1 phoenix and got excited at the prospect. This was what everyone wanted to see. The extent of power one man possessed to make the 7 houses pay so much attention to Brother Zhuo, fingers cross. Xue Ningxiang cheered with an adorable face, staggering for a second there. Zhuo Fan waved back slightly with a smile. Dong Xiaowan waved as well, but found him not even noticing her and was peeved. Ninga, are you and Brother Zhuo close? He saved my clan's lives. Xue Ningxiang nodded, but then found Dong Xiaowan gloomy and mumbled, Sister Wanna, sorry. It's fine. He never even looked at me anyway. Dong Xiaowan shook her head. Sullen Dong clan head gleaned something out of all of this and asked Dong Tianba, is that youth who I think it is? Dong Tianba nodded and sighed. His sister had been love-struck since back in Drifting Flowers City. Her crush never spared her a glance, while she pined for him every moment. I can't tell if she is foolish or silly. Darling, good luck. Crush them all. A cute voice came from Drifting Flowers Edifice's side and slammed into the ears of the audience. Xiao Dandan was practically jumping in her seat, gesticulating wildly to make sure he saw her. Zhuo Fan held his head. What's this idiot doing here? Is Drifting Flowers Edifices so understaffed? How is she fit to join the 7 houses' final battle with her cultivation? Cannon fodder is more like it. Pulling Xiao Dandan back down, Peony Overseer cursed, why can't you act proper instead of some lovesick maiden? Humph, me and Darling have already tied the knot. He'll come around. Xiao Dandan pouted, still clinging to her hope. Sighing, Peony Overseer said. This girl has lost it. On the other hand, Xie Tianyang was laughing his head off, using this chance to gossip with Xue Ningxiang. Ninga, see that? This punk is a womanizer. He got another one just like that. And I can attest to having seen them kissing in public myself. Xie Tianyang laughed inside. Time to cash in on the scheme I cooked back in Drifting Flowers Edifices. Xue Ningxiang's eyes were fixed on Zhuo Fan, having a sinking and uncomfortable feeling in her heart. The looks Zhuo Fan got from the audience were odd, to say the least. This kid's the bomb. He goes around the 7 houses, spreading chaos and destruction, while not forgetting to sow the seeds of love. Lady Killer Demonic Dragon is far more appropriate. Steward Zhuo, you are a true man of mercy, to show such restraint in your travels. Luo Yunchang towered behind Zhuo Fan with a sweet smile. And yet the killing intent in her eyes made her close to a demon. Zhuo Fan shrugged it off. I only did what I had to. The rest was a force of circumstance, out of my control. Force of circumstance, you say? Luo Yunchang teased and held his face. Zhuo Fan was caught off guard. What are you doing? Force of circumstance. Grinning, Luo Yunchang looked at him longingly and smooched him. Zhuo Fan felt her soft lips but didn't get to relish in the sensation as Luo Yunchang swished her head away blushing. But the look in her eyes was that of a blissful maiden. Steward Zhuo, good luck. Luo Yunchang batted her eyes at him, then shot a glance towards Drifting Flowers Edifices. Chu Qingqing's eyes were spitting fire right about now. her teeth crunching so hard even grandmother could hear Xiao Dandan was having a hard time swallowing down her anger. She was ready to jump at that huss's throat. Fortunately, Peony Overseer was there to rein her in. Who is she? How dare she force herself on darling? That's their clan's matter. It has nothing to do with you. Peony Overseer sighed. Xiao Dandan whined, that's my darling. Of course it has. Xie Tianyang found the ever-sweet and cheerful Xue Ningxiang wearing a mask of anger and sorrow. This is a cat fight only a man can stir. But why do I get the feeling even my cute and lovely Ninga wants to join the battlefield as well? The audience was even more shocked. That's no demonic dragon, that's a love doctor, I tell you. While actually, they felt jealousy and anger. Being a skirt chaser is a skill as well. Huangpu Qianyuan twiddled his mustache with a cold eye. Sir Leng, who among these girls is his Achilles heel? They all have a crush on him, but he ignores them completely. It's too soon to tell if any of them can be called his weakness. This needs further observation. Leng Wuchang's eyes flashed. Huangpu Qianyuan nodded. Zhuofan was out of it for a second there, then saw Luo Yunchang's rosy cheeks and rubbed her head. Young Miss Luo, you're not getting weird on me, are you? You're the weird one. Now get on stage. With a glare, Luo Yunchang pushed him forward with that charming and touching look. She made quite a number of hearts skip a beat in the crowd. Zhuofan shook his head and went on. Just then, two figures wrapped in black energy popped up in front of him. The Blue Expanse City's Sun Clan duo. Looking at the two creepy aberrations, Zhuofan was stunned. You need something? Hi, Zhuofan, you can't tell who we are? The man let out an eerie laughter, followed by the girl. Zhuofan shook his head. Sorry, I've sinned so much I don't keep track of how many I've wronged. If you're here for revenge, kindly wait your turn. I'll be with you in a second to send you to the afterlife. Hi, Zhuofan, you're as arrogant as ever. But we aren't the same as before. This time it's you who dies. The man's eyes flashed bloody red. Zhuofan nodded. I get it now. I've never seen such ugly freaks in my life. Going through such a nasty makeover, of course I couldn't recognize the current you. The crowd erupted in laughter. Even the girls who were glaring at each other giggled, breaking off their cat fight. Only the duo on stage was pissed. Zhuofan, that's enough. Another shout came and two more figures wrapped in black smoke appeared as they landed in front of Zhuofan. They were old men in the fifth layer of Profound Heaven stage, but their faces were as creepy and disturbing as the duo's. Zhuofan, you've mocked and derided us ever since we met. It's because of you we look like this. Today, we will take your head as revenge. One of the old men said savagely. Luo Yunchang frowned. You came for revenge, but we do not even know how we've offended you. Humph, Yunchang, have you forgotten? Destruction of our clan, being cast out, are these not reasons enough? The old man spat. Luo Yunchang was still puzzled, but Zhuofan caught onto something and mocked. Oh, so it's you. Who knew you ended up so pathetic and turned into freaks? Now that you've lost all reason to live, you've come to me for reincarnation? We came to kill you, or die together. The old man's mind was set snickering. Zhuofan said, even if you came to kill me, you ought to get in line. After I deal with the ones on stage, I don't mind finishing off the lot of you as well. The four nodded as the saying went, know thyself and your enemy and you'd be ever victorious. It paid to know what the other party was capable of, so the four cleared a path for Zhuofan to go on stage. By now, the 20 strong fighters on stage were grave. They had lost the mockery and disdain they had for the bone-tempering Zhuofan. They just found out that he can stand tall like 6 dragons and 1 phoenix and changed their thinking. How were they going to beat such a monster? Heck, not even a first-rate clan could do him in. But since they were on stage already, the fight was unavoidable. They came to esoteric debate in hopes of coming under the wing of the 7 houses. After all, this made every fight a chance to show their spirit and worth. A chance they would never miss. Soaring demonic dragon, come. Wan clan's leader cupped his hands, ready for battle. He was sweating buckets, but that didn't stop him from braving through the fear weight. Zhuofan smiled. My Luo clan will definitely enter the final battle, and this is too much of a hassle. So in order to move things along, let all clans, from third to first rate, step in. If I lose, we walk. If I win, we'll go straight to the final battle, fighting with the 7 houses. SSS tilde. A round of gasps echoed. He wants to fight every clan, alone? That was just too outrageously cocky. His words only sparked anger in every clan present. While only the 7 houses looked on calmly. They were the only ones who knew all too well of Zhuo Fan's cunningness and deceit. Chapter 263 A Shocking and Devastating Strike. Chapter 263 A Shocking and Devastating Strike. The clans were outraged at Zhuo Fan's haughty declaration while also terrified of the one they called Soaring Demonic Dragon. The profound heaven expert directing the fight said to Zhuo Fan, "This isn't in the rules. What matters is strength. That's how one earns their right to participate in the final battle." Grinning, Zhuo Fan stuck out his chin as he turned to the 7 houses, and it's a perfect time to show them who they're up against. Such ego to consider himself the 7 houses' equal. He instantly earned the disdain of the crowd. While those that knew of his exploits with the 7 houses thought, the kid sure is qualified. Huangpu Qingtian stepped forward and watched the stage coldly. The appearance of Regent Estate's eldest young master shocked them all. They soon heard a clear and mighty voice ringing in their ears. The words had such impact they almost had a heart attack. "Do as per his wishes." But Huangpu Qingtian drew his arm over the crowd. "I declare that anyone who brings me Zhuo Fan's head, their clan will become Regent Estate's vassal. SSS tilde. After a round of gasps, a deathly silence ensued. The clans were so overwhelmed they couldn't dare believe their ears. This is God sent. One little head was enough to skip the cruel and deadly esoteric debate's last battle and just come under Regent Estate's wing. What they didn't know, however, was that this dream was closer to a nightmare than reality, but the promise of greatness robbed their minds of what was to come. Their eyes were fixed on Zhuo Fan, wishing they were already holding his head. All they were waiting for now was that profound heaven expert's signal, and they'd be onto him like wolves. No one even stopped to think that this free meal could be too hard to even chew. Was Zhuo Fan's title of Soaring Demonic Dragon, on par with 6 dragons and 1 phoenix, for naught? Young Master Huangpu, you're sending them to their death. Zhuo Fan was carefree as he showed an evil grin to Huangpu Qingtian. Huangpu Qingtian responded with the same smile. "Isn't this what you wanted?" Then they laughed. Zhuo Fan wanted to cause a sensation, all right, to establish Luo clan's position in the upcoming final battle. So the more people that jumped on his sword the better. While Huangpu Qingtian never once believed these second and third-rate clans had any good seeds among them to even harm Zhuo Fan, he was using them to see Zhuo Fan's limit and develop contingencies. Each side understood the other's intent flawlessly, all while using each other. It was a win-win scenario. The only losses here would be just your run-of-the-mill rock for brains suicidal morons. The 7 houses noticed this as well, and they were stunned looking at the laughing duo. These two are devious and cruel men of ambition. They gaze far into the horizon. In this esoteric debate, the winner would come from one of them, but as the world wasn't big enough for the two of them, they had to settle their score here and now. Or the world would be plunged into chaos at their hands, ripped apart and burned to cinders. The House Lords watched them with glinting eyes. The esoteric debate was going to revolve around these two monsters, Huangpu Qingtian and Zhuo Fan. Each leading his own faction of houses, something unheard of in the past esoteric debates. The battle for unification was underway and nothing or anyone could stop it. All that was left was to see who had the last laugh. This was something privy to the 7 houses only. Those crickets downstairs only knew how to fight among each other for scraps. The presiding profound heaven expert got his nod of approval and flew up high, soon followed by his clear words. Luo clan's qualifying fight for the final battle begins. Roar. The clans flung themselves like mindless beasts at Zhuo Fan. They were all spectators turned opportunists. What used to be innocent bystanders were now fired up by the smell of blood and glory. They were all just one gory head away from becoming the foundation of their clan's endless fame. Who could fight the temptation? Perhaps they were lucky enough and would even get it, and the number who thought so was by no means small. As such, the referee's words were marked by a veritable flood of people storming the stage. It was close to 10,000 people, with plenty of bone tempering and profound heaven experts joining as well. The WAN clan already on stage was overwhelmed. Zhuo Fan was their opponent, but, as things stood, did they even have a snowball's chance in hell to rob the guy's head from the masses? Luck was with them in that regard, being so close and all. Yet when they looked deep into Zhuo Fan's bottomless gaze, the 20 strong men found themselves frozen. The incoming tide behind them was oblivious. rushing onwards like clueless children swept by the promise of reward as they launched attacks on Zhuofan. The thousands of people swallowed Zhuofan until he was no longer visible. Xuaningxiang was worried. Will brother Zhuo be fine? Totally. With that punk's luck, not even the 7 houses can do anything to him, let alone these pests. Xie Tianyang comforted Ninga, but he was nonetheless frowning. But isn't thousands of people at once perhaps an overkill? The punk is amazing, sure, but there is also the danger of dying from exhaustion. Why is he waiting them out? Why isn't he thinning the crowd? Hi, no matter how strong, he is all alone against the tide. He is finished. A creepy laughter jarred his ear. The audience, or what was left of it, turned to the creepy man to hear him say, "A shame we are already under Hell Valley and cannot throw our lot with Regent Estate. We would have been in there cashing our luck otherwise." True. Dong Clan Head nodded. Wanna glared at him. Dong Clan Head shook his head as he looked at the sea of people on the stage. These are cruel words, but that is reality. Regent Estate's bait is too enticing for anyone to resist. Not even the kid would have thought his egotistical words would stir such a reaction. Even if he dies, he only has himself to blame. Dong Clan Head sighed, as did Xue Wanlong and Xue Dingtian. Xuaningxiang and Dong Xiaowan watched on, plagued with worry. Dong Tianba and the Xue clan's youths were frowning. But only Xie Tianyang had a mocking smile. Egotistical? Of course he is. But have you ever seen how cautious he is? How could a brash and obnoxious kid ever manage to toy with Yugichi? Xie Tianyang was not one bit worried for Zhuofan's fate. He knew Zhuofan showed cockiness on the outside but never actually did something unless he had a plan set in motion. An invisible ripple spawned in the center of the stage, swallowing it whole. The force of it had Huangpu Chenyuan squinting. He watched as the tide of people on the stage had blank stares before collapsing. All the contestants dropped on the ground one at a time, with the crazed and thirsty greed frozen on their faces. Those outside the stage stopped in their charge, watching the stage tensely. Zhuofan touched the buffed guy in front with his finger and let him collapse. The ground around him was littered with bodies, not that he cared, stepping over them in his conquering march like a king. He was stepping on the bodies of his enemies as he took his throne. Xuaningxiang and Dong Xiaowan were overjoyed while Dong Clan Head, Xue Clan Head were shell-shocked. What just happened? What's wrong with them? The shock on everyone's faces was palpable. Zhuofan was uncaring, looking over the leftovers, still standing and cocking his finger with a nasty grin. There's still 1,000 left. Come and take my head if you want it. Swallowing dryly, they were now faltering. Their previous high had passed, as did their courage. The sight of an evil and grinning Zhuofan in the middle of thousands of bodies tended to do that to a feeble mind. Killing with intent. Huangpu Qingtian's eyes trembled. His quiet voice spread everywhere among the deathly silence. In an instant, everyone looked at Zhuofan in shock. Isn't that a radiant stage expert's ability? Why is a bone-tempering cultivator wielding it? The fear in their eyes couldn't be more pronounced. This was why so many people dropped lifeless without even a chance to fight back. The one that killed them was on par with a radiant stage expert. Chapter 264, Tyrant. Chapter 264, Tyrant. All the big shots from the 7 houses were overwhelmed at Zhuofan's power, having exceeded their expectations by a long shot. What was considered a freak body cultivator, harder than diamonds, had in a single step crossed over the profound heaven stage and went straight to using radiant stage abilities, leaving these old fogies eating dust. Bluntly put, these 7 houses' big shots were so daft that not even one had touched upon the radiant stage, and that shame came crashing down, evident by their flushed faces. What is wrong with this generation? One freakier than the last. If these bags of bones were of Zhuofan's age, they'd be dancing in joy if they had the hope of even entering the profound heaven stage, but now, it only brings us tears. Out with the old and in with the new, they always say. But the new has kicked us to the curb with this display. Sigh. As the old bones watched the imposing and daunting Zhuofan on stage, their eyes glistened with tears, feeling as if they had aged a few centuries on the spot. Huangpu Qingtian was having a hard time containing himself, evident by the gnashing teeth and clenched fists he showed off. Killing with intent last night, to flounce his almightiness and scare the living daylights out of Zhuofan. But come tomorrow, Zhuofan replied with the same coin, making his act anything but of a circus clown. Such a display of power would leave anyone wallowing in their refuse from fright. As to what Zhuofan did after this display, Not only bitch-slapped him but threw him from the highest peak into the deepest abyss. The more he thought about it, the more he realized that his act yesterday was of foolishness. Zhuo Fan picked on his shame and did what he liked doing best, egging Huangpu Qingtian on with an exaggerated middle finger and a quirk of his eyebrows. Words were hardly necessarily at this stage in getting his point across. Dumbass. Huangpu Qingtian's eyes were spitting flames at this point, having long crossed the limits of his tolerance, but Leng Wuchang held his shoulder, stopping him from acting out by getting rid of these third and second-rate clans. Zhuo Fan spoke aplenty. By killing with intent taken as his weapon of choice, he spat on Huangpu Qingtian's bravado while also slapping him around for good measure. Could any living being take it? And yet he did. He knew this was neither time nor place for such an altercation. All poisoner. Have you ever seen the eldest young master lose his cool? Yu Yushan walked over to Yang Bangui shaking his head. Yang Bangui's face was grave, not even once. Same. But the punk sure knows how to push the eldest young master's buttons. He chuckled for a second before sighing. By the looks of it, the final battle revolving around 6 dragons and 1 phoenix for so many centuries has now turned into heaven-shaking dragon lord versus soaring demonic dragon. All we can do is stay back and cheer, like mere squires. We were so useless yesterday as well. Yang Bangui recalled how Zhuo Fan had popped up in his face and shuddered from how powerless he felt. He didn't want to admit it, not with how he scrunched his teeth, since when their prestige as 6 dragons and 1 phoenix was seen with mockery. Yang Bogong, leader of Pilking Hall, glanced at the two with calm. Don't sell yourself short. You are very much needed in the plan to get ourselves rid of that little monster. Shuddering, the two recovered their fighting spirit. Yeah, we just need a good plan and together we will waste him for good. Yang Fu grinned with hatred while the two were quiet. Yu Yushan mocked him. We? Ha ha ha, what can you possibly do? Since when are you on the same level as us? Yang Bangui couldn't help but smile and Yang Bogong chuckled. Yang Fu was furious, but there was nothing he could do. Ever since his master, Yang Song, suffered an untimely demise, he lost all support in Pilking Hall. His alchemy was very much well regarded still, but his poison arts paled to the likes of Yang Bangui, so he was kicked to the curb. It only worked to fuel his hatred for Zhuo Fan to new heights. He lost everything because of him. Back on the stage, all those greedy and power-hungry clans finally woke up from the allure of fame. They started drawing back, further and further away. The referee landed on the corpse-filled stage and sighed at Zhuo Fan's insane power. In the millennium that passed, and in all the esoteric debates that were held, never had the preliminaries to the final battle yielded so many casualties. Although sad, he had no sympathy whatsoever. Their greed got them their deaths. They bet their lives for power and fame, but lost in the end. They got their just dessert. In this qualification round for the final battle, Luo clan is victorious. The old guy shouted. They all heard it, but they didn't applaud. Those that laid at Zhuo Fan's feet were their brothers, part of the same clans. Why would anyone congratulate their enemy for killing their men? Did that even make sense? The only thing they felt when looking at the slaughter was pain. Zhuo Fan had stepped on their kin to enter the final battle. Why the hell would they applaud? Their hearts were only capable of unbridled hatred now. Not that Zhuo Fan cared. Every general climbed to his rank by stepping over a mountain of corpses. He had no need for eulogies and acclamations, only to be feared and obeyed. Old Pang, make a list with all the dead people's clans. I will pay a visit to each and every one of them. Zhuo Fan pointed at the corpse-filled stage. Old Pang got to work immediately. The relatives watched disgruntled, and some even had the courage to voice their indignation. Zhuo Fan, we don't need your hypocrisy. Don't think that some poor apology will be enough to atone for this slaughter. This earned the nods of the crowd. Apology, atone? Quirking an eyebrow, Zhuo Fan felt he had heard the biggest joke ever. Ha ha ha, are you stupid or what? Since when did I start having regrets from killing? And you even went as far as thinking I'd apologize for squashing mere ants. Humph, let me be perfectly clear. When you went after me just now, wishing to get my head, I made sure to burn each one of you in my mind. I only want the list so I can pay a social visit and send you off with the rest of your clan and avoid any meddlesome folks in the future. Apologize. Atone. Unlike all those stories where the guy gets the girl, I will be sure to take her from right under your noses, morons. SSS tilde. Gasps of fear resounded everywhere. Is this guy human? He slaughtered so many and yet he won't rest until he has committed genocide. Gone was vengeance from everyone's minds, and instead they shivered in fear, worrying if they'd even have a future. Maybe moving into mountains and avoiding this demon Archon is for the best. They all paled and forgot everything about revenge. Lung Wuchang snickered a praise. This brat sure is crafty. People seek revenge out of survival. But when that is at risk, all the hatred evaporates. They will most likely run home and cover all of this up, while leaving him a free path to the final battle. But this punk is a tyrant. He does not care for the people. Huangpu Qianyuan said. Lung Wuchang shook his head. A tyrant is called that only in the moment of his fall. That is when others gather their nerves to call him that. If he keeps on winning, he will always be a righteous lord. His actions will have no impact whatsoever as well. As you can see from his choice today, he instilled a powerful image on all present here that getting on Luo clan's bad sides or on the Seven Houses' bad side made no difference. They'll end up dead either way. So who then will go against the Luo clan besides us? Gasping, Huangpu Qianyuan nodded. He is both ambitious and a ruler material. We need to nip him in the bud. Huangpu Qianyuan stood up and left, seeing Regent Estate following their estate lord. The other 6 houses glanced one more time at Shuofan before leaving as well. Staying any longer wouldn't net them any new information anyway. They had been introduced already to Shuofan's other grand ability. Shuofan sighed watching them go and went to Xueningxiang and Xie Tianyang. What a coincidence. You are also joining the esoteric debate? He failed to notice, however, Lung Wuchang pausing and looking back at him with a wide grin. Estate lord, I may have found this brat's weakness. Lung Wuchang beamed at Huangpu Qianyuan. Huangpu Qianyuan raised an eyebrow. Sir Lung found out the cause behind his vanishing acts. No, but it is akin to a spatial array. We can only use another array to seal this ability. Lung Wuchang shook his head. If only Shuofan was here to hear this, he'd have the shock of his life, and praise Lung Wuchang's cunning eyes. The divine eye of the void's first stage's weakness was indeed a sealed space, but how do we trap him in an array? He is just too insidious to fall for it. Huangpu Qianyuan frowned. Lung Wuchang showed a vague smile. He is trickier than a fox, proving to be a hard opponent even for me. But even smart people act like an average person sometimes. Ho, Sir Lung must have a plan ready then. Huangpu Qianyuan's eyes flashed. Lung Wuchang nodded and smiled. Chapter 265, A Clan Dog's Burial. Chapter 265, A Clan Dog's Burial. Big Brother Zhuo, congratulations on getting into the final battle. Xueningxiang couldn't stop the sweet smile from gracing her face. Xue Dingtian and Dong clan heads' hearts jumped from fear. Despite knowing fully well that Shuofan had always been on their side, it was all because his power was the biggest threat. The sight of Shuofan slaughtering thousands of people with intent alone gave them the feeling of ants looking at a giant. He could kill them on a whim if he found them displeasing in any way. Who wouldn't shake in their boots? They had a stiff smile on their faces, but their backs were soaked. They were like deer in the headlights. The tiger had them in his sights, and even if his appetite was abated, their fear was very much real. Shuofan was oblivious to the fear he evoked. He who had become a dreaded existence just minutes ago was now smiling and nodding. The others nodded stiffly with an awkward smile. He puffed up his chest as he looked at Xueningxiang. That was going to happen in due time anyways. It will hardly make a difference when garbage throws itself at me, even if they are in the tens of thousands. They all laughed dryly, but sweat poured out harder. His tone was haughty, but then the people thought about it from a different angle. Weren't Dong clan and Xue clan average clans as well? Garbage even? What would be their future? Wasn't he clearly mocking them in a convoluted way? It wasn't like the two could complain. Who told him to get strong enough to end their lives with a squeeze? Just smile and nod. Shuofan was minding his own business, and with how often he was around big shots, he had no idea what waves his words were stirring in these two clan heads' minds. Xueningxiang chuckled innocently. But then she frowned. Big Brother Zhuo, will you really end their clans? They just lost their relatives. On the stage, death is unavoidable, but going so far as to kill their whole clan afterwards is cruel. My clan was also on the verge of being wiped out, and I can relate. Please, could you just let them go? Well. Shuofan frowned. Xue Dingtian noticed the predicament and chastised. Ninga, Steward Shui had his reason for doing it. You can't go and ruin his plans with your playfulness. Moreover, a true man never goes back on his word, even more so for Steward Shui, who is a hero, a great. Fine, no problem. Shui Dingtian didn't even get to teach his dear granddaughter about manners before Zhuo Fan just shrugged it off. I only meant to scare them anyway, to dispel any thoughts of going against me. Since I got what I wanted, there's no need to exterminate them. What do you take me for, a pitiless demon archon? Damn right. They all shook their heads but nodded in their minds. If you're no demon archon, what are the thousands of corpses doing on stage? Shui Ningxiang was ecstatic. She felt for those pitiful clans deeply. Big brother Zhuo doesn't need to go through a pointless slaughter. Zhuo Fan smiled and ruffled her hair. His savage face showed a rare hint of being content. Shui Dingtian was dumbstruck. He was looking to justify Zhuo Fan's cruel way all this time and even reproached his granddaughter, and yet Zhuo Fan actually agreed with his granddaughter's pleading instead of giving credence to his reasoning. Where would his face go when speaking to his juniors now? But seeing that Zhuo Fan had eyes for Ninga alone, the old man sighed, my face is useless here. Better leave them alone, lest I become a third wheel. Hey, hands off. Don't you know mere acquaintances should never touch? Xie Tianyang burst into their corner of the world and flung Zhuo Fan's hand off Ninga's head. His jealousy was already burning strong, and seeing Zhuo Fan patting her was the last straw. Zhuo Fan saw right through him and sighed. Luo Yunchang took this moment to barge in as well. Yeah, how could any respectable woman be touched so casually? Then she said in apology, Ninga, please don't mind it. Steward Zhuo is a bore. I'll teach him some manners when we get back. Ah, it's all right. Young Miss Luo, don't blame big brother Zhuo. Shui Ningxiang panicked. The gullible girl thought the young miss had the power to knock some sense into Zhuo Fan. Zhuo Fan frowned, feeling ticked off for some odd reason. Steward Zhuo, here's the list. Captain Pang came with a paper. Zhuo Fan scrunched it up and threw it. Never mind. Captain Pang was stumped. What's with Steward Zhuo? Why is he so angry? Zhuo Fan had no clue why, but felt something amiss when Xie Tianyang flung his hand off the girl's head. It only got worse when Luo Yunchang showed up and her words stung him. He was now sulking and had no one to vent on. Suddenly, Zhuo Fan shouted, wait. They all looked around to see where Zhuo Fan was looking. The Sun Clan's 4 were tiptoeing away. They were depressed. They worked so hard on their cultivation the last 5 years too. They thought with their strength, it was enough to at least take Zhuo Fan to his grave together if not alone, but then they saw that monstrous Zhuo Fan turn into an abomination, killing with intent. The 4 of them had no chance whatsoever now. They would be finished in a blink. Oh, they still wanted revenge of course, but that didn't mean becoming cannon fodder was in their plan. Only an idiot would jump right in when there was no chance of victory, so they chose to hightail out of there. Once Zhuo Fan figured out who they were, he no longer cared about them. But now he needed a good punching bag to blow off some steam, and they became the perfect targets. Zhuo Fan hardly ever got angry, especially the kind of dubious and inexplicable type of anger he was feeling right now, but now that he ran into these guys, he felt like the luckiest man alive. Staggering. The old man in front stiffly looked back as he used the same hoarse voice. You need something? Are you serious? You're asking me? After you had the gall to shout that you'll kill me? Zhuo Fan smiled in anger, walking towards them while spouting, Cai Rong, Cai shouting, and the Sun Clan's father and daughter, drop the dumb ack. The 4 shuddered as they turned, yet they were too scared to even look him in the eye. Luo Yunchang's group jerked. They threw the 4 out of their clan, but who knew they'd end up looking like freaks of nature? Zhuo Fan cared not about their flimsy explanations and appeared right in front of the 4 as he taunted, come then. Weren't you gonna take revenge? I'll take you all on and even give you 2 free moves. Their faces sank, no longer arrogant as before, but down in the dumps. What good will 2 moves do when you can kill us with intent alone? Don't feel like it. That only got Zhuo Fan's rage to tower higher and roared, since you have no guts, kneel. See how I put you in your place. Regardless of how unwilling they were, their knees buckled to kneel or not to kneel. That was the question. Kneeling was shameful, but most likely a better outcome than ending up a smear on the ground at this savage's hands. Life is ever precious. Face matters not, especially with our creepy looks. One after the other, they bent their knees and fell on Zhuo Fan's feet. Luo Yunchang cried, how did you all end up like this? How else? The Hell Valley gave them some double-edged demonic method. A demonic emperor like Shuo Fan saw through them in a flash as he cursed, "Just look at yourselves. You're neither human nor monster, and yet you still want to live. Is this the awe-inspiring power you all sought? Especially you, instead of staying as an elder in the Luo clan, you went ahead and threw your whole lot with the Sun clan. What a fool." Zhuo Fan sputtered into Cai Rong's flushed face. Zhuo Fan had hardly had enough and kept on flinging curses. "Do you know why you look like this? It's what you deserve for being so adamant in becoming someone's lapdogs. Even as an elder of the Luo clan, you wanted to climb aboard Hell Valley. Now that you did, you're worth less than even a dog. Idiot, nitwit, dumbass, Nimrod." Zhuo Fan was on a roll. He was thorough in cursing out every bit of respect the four ever had. They couldn't even muster a retort. Luo Yunchang glanced at Zhuo Fan with complicated thoughts. "Zhuo Fan, kill us or torture us. But stop with the insults." Cai Rong had had enough. It seemed. Zhuo Fan squinted. "Kill you? Why would I ever do that?" The four were startled and echoed, "You won't kill us?" "Of course not. I only care about two kinds of people. Friends, to hang out with, and enemies, to kill." Grinning, Zhuo Fan added, "What do you suppose you are? Enemy?" Cai Rong tested, shaking his head. Zhuo Fan snickered. "Friends, perhaps?" Cai Rong's heart thumped with hope. Was Zhuo Fan absolving them? Was he going to help them? Zhuo Fan was cracking up, and mocked them even harder. "Wrong, you are nothing to me. Just a bunch of clowns unworthy to kill and even less to call friend. Beat it. Live on like the dogs you are and have a taste of worldly pain as you reflect on your mistakes. I expect a good show on your part." With a grin, Zhuo Fan finally felt at peace, having cursed them and humiliated them so thoroughly. Chapter 266 Rage. Chapter 266 Rage. Shameless humiliation. The faces of the four were aflame, wishing they could go out fighting, and yet they kneeled there without a peep. Why were they here anyway? Did they come here only to get humiliated? Luo Yunchang sighed and glanced at Zhuo Fan. Zhuo Fan looked crazed in his enjoyment, shouting, "Why are you still here? Get lost already." Cai Rong's group shook their heads and left, but not before they heard Zhuo Fan sinking one last insult. "Do it like dogs. What are you standing around for when you're not even humans?" Shuddering, the four bit their lips fiercely. Zhuo Fan was towering over them with his mighty air and arrogance, yet all they could do was suffer. He was just that strong. Cai Rong wept as he crawled away with the other three. Their image in the evening sun struck the picture of degradation, of stray dogs begging for mercy. Zhuo Fan barked on, trying to dispel that queer rage completely. People watched Zhuo Fan being thorough in humiliating these four, leaving them without a shred of dignity. The more they saw, the greater their fear of Zhuo Fan became. They said a warrior could be killed but not shamed. And yet when these clan heads watched such naked display of abuse and mockery, they felt it was even worse than having their entire clan wiped out, because visiting the underworld may be cruel and sad, but all clansmen would meet again in the afterlife. While the shamed would have to live on with this disgrace, in this nightmare built by harsh and cruel words, a fate worse than death. While Zhuo Fan was raining curses, his every word stung Shuo and Dong clan like daggers. Are we dogs or warriors? The Luo clan had Zhuo Fan as their pillar that even the seven houses regarded with importance, and thus they could maintain their integrity. While to the average clan in this world, not being dogs would end up becoming their destruction. How could one have integrity when his entire existence was threatened? Oftentimes they never wished to rise above their station, simply to survive. That was why they had integrity on the surface, while acting like dogs through their actions. Just that these two clans were lucky enough to get a good master, Drifting Flowers Edifices and Sword Marquis Abode. Unlike how the cruel Hell Valley treated their vassals, so they may be dogs, but could venture in calling themselves dogs with pedigree. Taking deep breaths, Shui clan head and Dong clan head glanced at each other, then shook their heads. Zhuo Fan and Luo clan were worlds apart from them. "Steward Zhuo, calm down. Why are you so angry? It's not worth stressing yourself over this." Captain Pang came to Zhuo Fan with a smile. Zhuo Fan shrugged, his face calm. "I'm fine. I am not one to get angry over the likes of them. They are not worth it. I only abused them since it worked to show off my pretentious style." Captain Pang reeled and laughed dryly. What a reason to curse someone. How freakish. Only Luo Yunchang bit her lip watching Zhuo Fan. Oh, sorry everyone, there are matters that I need to deal with. I shall take my leave. Zhuo Fan cupped his hands and left with Luo Yunchang and company. The others replied in kind. Only Dong Xiaowan watched him grumbling. He never even looked at me. Dong Clan head patted her shoulder and shook his head. Wanna, you and him are of different worlds. It's impossible. Dong Xiaowan closed her teary eyes. In Luo Clan's residence, the ever-quiet Luo Yunchang spoke up. Zhuo Fan, Miss Ninga, and you. What's wrong? Zhuo Fan asked. Puzzled Luo Yunchang looked at him long, then shook her head. Nothing. Zhuo Fan blinked obliviously. Luo Clan stayed in a small courtyard in Dragon Cloud City. After coming here, Zhuo Fan called for Lei Yuntian and the 20 profound heaven fakes with Steward Zhuo as our bulwark. We will always achieve absolute victory. Lei Yuntian cupped his hands and laughed. Zhuo Fan merely barked at the fakers. Elder Lei, cane these things 100 times each, personally. Lei Yuntian was startled. Why is Steward Zhuo angry? Did he lose? No way. Whenever Zhuo Fan entered the fray, he only came out winning, not to mention this was an easy matter. The 20 fakers were stumped as well. What did we do? They've been well behaved as of late. We never showed off either. Zhuo Fan snorted. You think I forgot about you since I didn't pay you any attention last couple of days? Luo Clan was attacked yesterday and even our allies and outsiders came out with heavy wounds trying to protect our masters. While you just picked a corner to let this play out. You think you'll get out of this so easily? But they were 6 dragons and 1 phoenix. We have no hope of defeating them, would have only died for nothing. One of the 20 said with fear squinting. Zhuo Fan's flick sent him flying as he roared. You call that a reason? When you were Imperial Guards, did you run away as well? You are now the Luo Clan's guards and the least you could do is be our shields. We are never to die before all of you. Didn't Elder Lei and Captain Pang act just the same? You don't have the Luo Clan's well-being as your priority and must be punished. Lei Yuntian nodded after a pause. He was right and these guys had to be put in their place. Elder Lei, what are you standing around for? Do it. Zhuo Fan barked. The 20 fakers jolted in fear. Lei Yuntian was about to execute the order when he froze. Wait, 100 canes per faker? Won't my old body give out after 2,000 hits? Steward Zhuo, are you punishing them or taking it out on me? But then again, only he was the best person suited for the job since if anyone else did it, it wouldn't count as punishment, but 2,000 canes. Lei Yuntian looked at Luo Yunchang bitter. Yunchang, what happened today? Why is Steward Zhuo so irritated? Luo Yunchang shook her head. Never mind, Uncle Lei. Just give them 20 canes each, but a bit harder. They all eased a breath in relief. The fakers rejoiced, as did Lei Yuntian. They were blessed to have this young miss above Demon Archon Zhuo. 2,000 canes turning into 400 was far more manageable. Back in his room, Zhuo Fan sat down and emptied the teacup at the side in one gulp and sighed. He was finally calm. Luo Yunchang and Captain Pang entered, to which Zhuo Fan said, How is Elder Li and the others? They should be close. For Dragon Cloud City to keep the peace, no house was allowed to bring in Radiant stage experts. So Zhuo Fan guessed Li Jingqian's group had to be waiting on the outskirts of town. Captain Pang shook his head. Young Miss Lei and Elder Yang hadn't come since you had plans for them. Correct. I indeed told them to move around this time. And the others? Zhuo Fan nodded. Captain Pang muttered, the others didn't as well. Why? Zhuo Fan finally had the time to mind Luo Clan's situation and was stunned by what he heard. It was my idea. Luo Yunchang said, Dragon Cloud City doesn't allow Radiant stage experts in and you said not to expose our cards too soon. So Fool. Zhuo Fan snapped, enraged again. The 7 houses didn't bring Radiant stage experts because of their power, while you have none. If you and Yunhai die here, the Luo clan is finished. What would be the point of all my plans and my efforts to help the clan? To throw it all away in the end? Luo Yunchang bit her lip and tears threatened to fall down her cheeks. But instead of succumbing to them, she snapped back, Yes, I am not so astute and failed to see the big picture. And you? After being gone for 5 years, you instantly scream at anyone you find an eyesore. It'd have been better if you hadn't bothered coming. Luo Yunchang slammed the door as she left. Captain Pang was awkward. Steward Zhuo, please don't take it to heart. She didn't mean it. She missed you day and night. Fine, I know. This isn't the first time she has acted like this anyway. Zhuo Fan sighed and squinted. Old Pang, send a messaging jade slip for Elder Li to provide us support. I have a feeling we will have a falling out with Regent Estate. Captain Pang nodded. Zhuo Fan was soon left alone with his thoughts. He closed his eyes as he considered he knew something was off about him today. Irritated by everything and lashing out at anyone. He was this close to trading blows too. This couldn't go on. If anger got the best of him, he would force his way forward, which was not a good thing. He had to control himself at all costs. Or there was a high chance he would do something he would regret. But why was he so ticked off all of a sudden? Taking a deep breath and closing his eyes, he calmed down and started cultivating. Suddenly, a shout echoed and Zhuo Fan clutched his right eye as he fell to the ground soaked. The golden ring in his eye flashed on and off as a faint second golden ring appeared. Am I about to achieve Divine Eye of the Void second stage? Zhuo Fan was excited. Chapter 267, Cold-Blooded. Chapter 267, Cold-Blooded. Russell Tilda. With a few flicks of his arms, Zhuo Fan set up a defensive array and sat cross-legged, calmed his mind and readied himself to advance. He felt his right eye burning red hot as the golden ring flashed. Zhuo Fan took a deep breath and focused his entire soul power on his right eye. The Divine Eye of the Void had an intrinsic connection with one's soul. Each advancement would tax one's soul greatly. 3 days passed within a blink in this manner, with Zhuo Fan focused on his task and no one disturbing him either. However, the morning of the 4th day Zhuo Fan opened his eyes with a sigh. It still failed. Is it because my soul is weak or because of my restless state of mind? Squinting, Zhuo Fan began regretting. It was such a rare chance to get stronger and he had thoroughly wasted it. Recalling his impatience 4 days ago, Zhuo Fan shook his head. Why couldn't I be calm? I need to temper my heart and remove all distractions. Zhuo Fan took a deep breath and closed his eyes. The next time he opened them, they were crystal clear with no ripples across them. Zhuo Fan stood up, undid the array and walked out. He was met with Luo Yunchang and company. One look was enough to tell him something was up. What's wrong? Zhuo Fan eyed them. Luo Yunchang muttered, Pavilion Lord Long has sent word that they want to discuss the final battle among the 7 houses with you. But you were cultivating these past days, Anne. All right, I got it. Zhuo Fan interrupted her and walked away without even looking at them. Like a lone wolf, Luo Yunchang looked at his back for a long while and then said, Captain Pang, did you also notice that he has changed? Captain Pang swallowed. Steward Zhuo didn't change, he has only returned to how he was 8 years ago. He looks the same as back then in Misty Forest. Luo Yunchang watched the prideful figure with an aching heart. Is he leaving again? A demonic cultivator only ever cared about themselves. With Zhuo Fan having met so many people over the years, each encounter had a faint influence, each tainting his heart and ultimately rattling his usually peaceful state of mind. He was of the belief that this was the sole reason for his failure to advance Divine Eye of the Void to the 2nd stage. After careful consideration, he had cast out every influence. Along with the ever-growing emotions, the strong had no need for dead weights. Surveying the white clouds floating about the blue sky, Zhuo Fan's eyes were crystal clear. So much so that they looked dead, so much better. Sighing, Zhuo Fan walked with purpose to a courtyard 10 times larger than the Luo clans. This place had high-ranking people watching the gate. Brother, the killing with intent you used has opened my eyes. Long Ju laughed. Zhuo Fan nodded unaffected. Long time no see, Brother Ju. Long Ju paused for a second. Why is brother so cold today? Darling, you were so cool. Xiao Dandan skipped over at some point with a rosy face. Peony Overseer held her face and sighed. Zhuo Fan glanced at her and said, Lass, do that again and I'll make sure it will be your last. Reeling, Xiao Dandan watched him like he was some stranger. She had gotten used to Zhuo Fan talking like that, but this time she could see the bloodthirst glinting in his eyes. She was certain that if she opened her mouth at this instant, Zhuo Fan would rip it off. Peony Overseer saw her disciple being picked on and glared. But before she could spring in defense, Zhuo Fan's cold, emotionless eyes snapped at her. And you, deal with your disciple before she meets with misfortune. When that time comes, You'll only have yourself to blame for not educating her properly. Zhuo Fan then walked inside without sparing the women a look. Zhuo Fan had long lost his joking mood and was ready to follow up on his threats. What's wrong with this kid? He's like another person. While those familiar with Zhuo Fan were stifled, the rest were even more afraid of earning his ire. Zhuo Fan was surrounded by a constant air of savagery as if he was standing above all. No one dared to stand closer than 3 meters around this mighty lord. His faraway look and his power let them know that the best he ever felt was when he was alone. This Zhuo Fan left them all cold and shaken inside rumble. Zhuo Fan walked in through the heavy door, where the 3 clans sat around a round table. They all smiled at his coming, Chu Qingcheng especially. He nodded and smiled in reply, but ignored Chu Qingcheng as he took a chair. Steward Zhuo, the qualification round has concluded. Because of your involvement, a large number of clans were eliminated. This makes the final battle planned a month later be moved 2 days from now. Long Yifi explained. Zhuo Fan nodded, so the reason you wanted to see me is, seeing how the Luo clan has never participated in the final battle of the 7 houses before, there are some things you have yet to learn. Long Yifi smiled. Actually, the final battle is held in a different area each time and rules change accordingly. What remains the same is how cruel and brutal it is. So it isn't held in Dragon Cloud City? Hasn't it been a tradition for esoteric debate to be held here for the past 1,000 years? Zhuo Fan raised an eyebrow. Long Yifi shook his head. This is the imperial family scheme. Only by constantly changing the environment could they see the true power of the 7 houses. And with how powerful the disciples from the 7 houses are, so too will the terrain become of a much greater difficulty. This time it is expected to be the worst so far. Zhuo Fan squinted, still out of the loop. Grandmother giggled. Steward Zhuo needn't be baffled. The Dragon Cloud City has a large 8th grade teleportation array to send us anywhere within the Tianyu Empire. And that is where the final battle will be held. This is also to prevent anyone from setting an ambush. Zhuo Fan nodded. Imperial family thought of everything. But using such a large teleportation array only for esoteric debate is such a waste. Zhuo Fan shook his head. In the end, if the imperial family wanted to waste their coffers, how was that his problem? He was better off focusing on the final battle. That was the whole reason why they were gathered here. Xie Xiaofeng smiled. Steward Zhuo, your skills have opened our eyes. But we still wish to ask, how confident are you in facing Huangpu Qingtian? Squinting, Zhuo Fan snickered. None whatsoever. But you can rest easy knowing that I can hold him down. With how one of the other 3 is a cripple, can you handle the remaining 2? With Steward Zhuo holding off that monster, the other 2.5 men will be easily taken care of. The 7 houses ranking will be in upheaval. Xie Xiaofeng anticipated with joy. The others laughed with him. They discussed further details then adjourned. Zhuo Fan walked to the door when a graceful figure blocked his view. Zhuo Fan eyed Chu Qingcheng. You need something? Zhuo Fan said flatly. Chu Qingcheng watched the impassive Zhuo Fan in anger. Zhuo Fan, I want an answer. Did you have no reason to stay in Drifting Flowers City longer? None. Zhuo Fan was resolute. I told you, I only did it out of self-interest. Since I had achieved my goal and got what I came for, I had no reason to stay. Chu Qingcheng gnashed her teeth and clenched her fists. What about the days spent in that shack? You call playing house being real? Mocking, Zhuo Fan sneered. Without sacrificing a few days of my youth, you would have never given up body jade sap so willingly. Pa. Chu Qingcheng slapped him before he could finish grinning. Zhuo Fan giggled despite her raging eyes. Silly girl, you're so easily duped that I worry how Drifting Flowers edifices will survive after grandmother's gone. Why not give it to me? Bastard, you are dead inside. Chu Qingcheng glared, her fingers dug into her palm drawing blood, trailing her flawless skin smirking. Zhuo Fan no longer looked at her as he left, but his mockery stung nonetheless. Ha ha ha, I am and always will be a demonic cultivator. Even if that time made me feel anything, so what? You think you can hook me in? With heart-wrenching pain, Chu Qingcheng watched him leave with a face filled with tears. Zhuo Fan paused but never turned around. His face forever cold as he walked away alone. Peony Overseer and the rest rushed over, seeing Chu Qingcheng's state and starting cursing Zhuo Fan. Zhuo Fan hardly cared about the pesky cawing. Leaving with a cold smile on his face, he had just left the courtyard and soon noticed some blood seeping from his mouth. He wiped it off unfeeling and mechanically. To become a demonic emperor, he had to be cold-blooded and to never allow a trace of emotion to get a hold of him ever again. Chapter 268, Prologue of the Final Battle. Chapter 268, Prologue of the Final Battle. Dragon Cloud City's westernmost side had a towering mountain going by the name of Transfer Peak. Right on top of this huge hunk of rock laid a grand 8th-grade teleportation array. Some said that even before Tianyu Empire came to be, the Yuan imperial family used this precise array to send its troops to every corner of the empire, but as the chaos made way to peace, it didn't see much use, serving now just as a means to blow off the 7 houses' ever-accumulating rancor. Through the esoteric debate at this particular moment, hundreds of clans were gathering on it en masse. They all looked at the array with nervousness, excitement, and/or anyone would be excited when it came to joining the final battle, knowing their rise was just around the corner, as was their destruction. And they were nervous as well at having qualified for this final battle. Besides the first-rate clans still holding their ranks, the third- and second-rate clans went through a shuffling. Few were those that rose to become first-rate. With new and incredible power, the final battle, however, wasn't as cushy as the qualification round. Not that the entry fights were ever easy to begin with, but when taking the final battle into account, its cruelty was way worse than the qualification battles. Thus, it was easy to imagine how nervous these clans were feeling that went farther for a particular underdog, the Luo clan of Windgaze City. With soaring demonic dragon Zhuofan on par with 6 dragons and 1 phoenix as vanguard, was there anyone capable of pushing them back? What was on the clan's minds, however, was whose vassal were they, for whose sake were they fighting for? The worry hit many hard. Look, the Luo clan. A shout snapped hundreds of heads in Luo Yunchang's direction as she led the Luo clan alongside Zhuofan. Finally healed, Luo Yunhai could now show his heroic aura and thirst for battle. A youth still, yet the 5th tiger of Tianyu would never just be another face in the crowd. Their proceedings instilled a certain heavy air around the onlookers. The Luo clan was a veritable wolf strutting through a sheep herd. It was so bad that the people made a 10-meter wide space for them. Everyone feared getting close to this savage beast, and yet, there were always exceptions. Big Brother Zhuo, you're all here. Xue Ningxiang skipped over hyped and waving. The Xue and Dong clans behind her earned not few raised eyebrows. What was their connection for these 2 clans to get so close with this wolf? But the appearance of Sword Marquis Abode's second young master, Xie Tianyang, making his way there as well, cleared all doubts. So they're allies. There was no shortage of rumors flying about the Luo clan, especially about its supporters. It so happened that Sword Marquis Abode was among these rumors, and today only validated it. This only worked to make the people even more envious of this upstart clan. So this is why the Luo clan jumped from 3rd to 1st rate and had a free path to the final battle. They have a house behind them. What kind of sheer dumb and rotten luck had they stumbled upon to have a house treat them so? Thinking of how mountains of wealth were literally flung at this 3rd-rate clan to reach such a position, if it were us in their stead, would have reached the moon by now, tch. People always looked at the surface of things, unaware that the Luo clan of today wasn't because of the support of some houses. And it was what they were today that had caught the 7 houses' attention. It was painfully obvious to see who here was a dog or a man. Xue Ningxiang gasped as she reached them with a sweet and innocent smile. Zhuofan's mouth quirked and he ruffled her hair. What are you doing here? Haven't you always hated watching people die? Luo Yunchang retorted as she watched him longingly. It was her first time in days that she caught Zhuofan show a carefree smile. But why wasn't it directed at her? Luo Yunchang sighed, feeling the ache deep within. It's fine, Big Brother Zhuo. Xue clan is joining as well and I'll be going too. Xue Ningxiang giggled, brandishing her cute little fists to show her battle spirit. Zhuofan shouted anxiously, You can't, Ninga. This is a vicious battle, not a game. A girl like you has no place on the battlefield. I don't care, because I know Big Brother Zhuo will be there to save me whenever I'm in danger. Xue Ningxiang blinked her bright eyes, watching Zhuofan eagerly. She then looked at the thunder ring. Whenever I'm in peril, the thunder ring will flicker and you'll appear. Isn't that right? Zhuofan squinted, then nodded in defeat. Fine, I'll look after you. You don't have to worry about that. You have Huangpu Qingtian to deal with. Ninga will be in my care. Xie Tianyang stormed next to Xue Ningxiang and held her shoulder, making a claim on her. Xue Dingtian only now arrived and smiled awkwardly. I can't stop her. This girl is too stubborn. But don't worry, she will be in her brother's and young master Xie's care, so she won't be in any trouble. On cue, Xue Lin and Xue Gang cupped their hands startled. Xue Fan gave them a once-over and nodded, despite the sense of loss taking hold on his heart. He felt that he and Ninga were only growing apart. With mountains rising between them, they could never return to the blissful times they shared in Allbeast Mountain Range. This is for the best. He wanted to numb his heart, and severing those memories of their past encounters was for the best. With a deep breath, Xue Fan regained inner peace, like a stone-cold killer. He said to Xie Tianyang, "Take good care of her and make sure nothing happens." "It goes without saying." Xie Tianyang nodded. "Xue Fan, I'm coming as well." Luo Yunchang spoke up. Xue Fan raised an eyebrow. "Why, didn't I say I and Yunhai and 10 guards are enough? Why do you want to come all of a sudden?" "How?" "No reason, you'll protect me so it'll be fine." Luo Yunchang batted her eyes, shaking his head. Xue Fan said, "No, too dangerous." "Are you worried about me?" "That's not it." Xue Fan scratched his nose. "I'll be in danger if I have to constantly look after you." The others chuckled. Luo Yunchang glared as she kicked his shin. "You make me a dead weight while you said you'd protect Ninga. What am I then?" Xue Fan let her vent on his leg, stiffened for a second as his face went cold. Luo Yunchang kicked him once, but the second kick didn't come, for her heart grew forlorn the more she looked at Xue Fan. Xue Fan had closed off his heart under lock and key. He was like a prideful hero, wishing to bear everything alone. "The 7 houses are here." The shout got everyone's attention. With Regent Estate in the lead, the 7 houses strutted forth. Chu Qingcheng was there as well. She glanced at Xue Fan only to see his face ever cold and impassive, which made her clench her fists. Grandmother was right. He is dead inside, not worth any woman's attention. Scoffing, she ignored him and walked behind grandmother with a frosty gaze. Marshal Dugu has arrived. Dugu Zhantian brought 10,000 soldiers to surround this area. He did it as a safety measure to instill order, but the thick scent of blood and steel shuddered the nerves of every disciple here. They who had only known life in the clan. Laughing, Dugu Zhantian stopped before Xue Fan and patted his shoulder. "Ha ha ha, kid, I was ready to come out and save you that day, but you have radiant stage abilities already. You hid them so well that you even had me worried." Marshall was there as well. Xue Fan raised an eyebrow. Dugu Zhantian nodded with a smile. "How could I not? Just the day before Huangpu Qingtian showed off his intent. I had to watch over you." "Who knew? Who frigging knew? You are both made of the same cloth, monsters the lot of you." "I was worried for nothing. Ha ha ha." Laughing on, Dugu Zhantian turned to Luo Yunhai and gave him some warnings before leaving. The 4 tigers of Tianyu offered their encouragement as they left as well. Reaching the forefront, Dugu Zhantian surveyed the crowd of clans. "Please step before the array. The esoteric debate's final battle will begin shortly." Starting with Regent Estate, the 7 houses took the first line in order of the previous esoteric debates. Ranking next were the clans, never even entertaining the thought of cutting ahead. The clans either stood behind their master or the house they wished to become a vassal of. Obviously, Regent Estate had the numerical advantage, but typical of Regent Estate, that didn't mean these clans were going to be accepted. While other clans with modicum of strength settled for standing behind other houses they wished to follow, Dawn Clan went behind Drifting Flowers edifices, and Xue Clan behind Sword Marquis abode. Xue Fan glanced at Luo Yunhai and nodded. Luo Yunhai strutted under the shocked gaze of the people right abreast the 7 houses, next to Drifting Flowers edifice. The rest of the clan's members puffed up their chests right behind him. The shock was understandable. The crowd now realized that the Luo clan was no one's dog but stood on their own, but this was a direct challenge to the 7 houses' authority. Would they be able to handle it? Chapter 269, The Most Enticing Reward. Chapter 269, The Most Enticing Reward. The 7 houses turned their heads, but the calm look on their faces said it all. They were expecting this. That only fueled the crowd's uproar. The 7 houses are accepting the Luo clan's rise. But how could they allow anyone to stand at their level? The Luo clan did have soaring demonic dragon Xue Fan, that insane monster, But the rest of the clan was a whole another matter entirely. Huangpu Chenyuan snickered at the narrow-minded clans around him. Were they so blind to see it coming ever since Shuofan started having a field day with the Seven Houses elders? So even though Luo clan was overstepping its bounds, per usual, none of the houses found it worthy of a reaction. Oh, your ambition for power and status sure is commendable. Ha ha ha, in the end you still abided by his wishes and showed up. An aged voice echoed. The crowd turned around in shock. They found three old men coming over. The leader being the head of four pillars, Prime Minister Zhuge Changfeng, flanked by his yin-yang elders. Even from afar, the people could sense the hidden and thick power they exuded, enough to crush this entire area. Why is this geezer here? Dugu Zhantian held his beard with a stern face. Huangpu Qianyuan's side was put off by the presence of Qianyu's number one mind. This old bin had extended Yu Wanshan and company a hand in wrestling out of the emperor's grip one time, but it was a known fact that no one could truly unravel the real reason behind his kindness. His mind was unreadable. Yesterday's friend could very well turn into today's enemy. But the worst was the constant anxiety one was in not knowing when that would happen. Lung Wuchang eyed the hunched figure, then shook his head and sighed. Not even he could read the old man hailed as unwonted contriver, with everyone an open book before his scrutiny. He had no confidence when it came to reading Zhuge Changfeng. Zhuge Changfeng sported a vague smile as he walked next to Shuofan. Have you thought it through? Or are you going to be swept away by the storm? Gasps of shock resounded everywhere. What is the Luo clan and Zhuge Changfeng's connection? They now understood why Luo clan had risen to challenge the Seven Houses. Blast it. With two pillars behind you, the young master under a marshal and the prime minister cheering you on, not even the Seven Houses would dare slight such a clan. So this is Luo clan's true backing. People's faces twitched and their hearts sank. Why does this never happen to me? Just what tricks did this Luo clan pull to grab hold of two pillars? Huangpu Qianyuan's side was also stunned. They never saw it coming. Zhuge Changfeng came for Shuofan. With even Zhuge Changfeng helping them, they had no chance to finish off the Luo clan. Ever. Huangpu Qianyuan's face sank as his knuckles went white. Lung Wuchang dismissed his worries. Estate Lord, Zhuge Changfeng is different from Dugu Zhantian, a pragmatic. Even if he intended to get close to Luo clan, it will only be because of Shuofan's skills. Once Shuofan is out of the picture, they will fall like a ton of bricks. It only makes this time's esoteric debate of paramount importance, to stomp that punk dead. Huangpu Qianyuan's eyes flashed with bloodthirst. Lung Wuchang nodded, turning to the only one who could achieve this feat, heaven-shaking Dragon Lord Huangpu Qingtian. Yet the man in question was oblivious to their conversation. His eyes showed he was raring to go turn the entire battlefield upside down. Perfect. Lung Wuchang chuckled, finding everyone dancing his tune. Going back to Shuofan, the man smiled. Prime Minister, how do you know if the Luo clan isn't in the eye of the storm already? Zhuge Changfeng raised an eyebrow. I trust your judgment. It's fine as long as you aren't forced into it. I am eager to see the day Steward Zhuo achieves his ambitions. Shuofan nodded and Zhuge Changfeng laughed. He took his yin-yang elders to Dugu Zhantian. Old Marshal, please don't take it hard on me for dropping unannounced. I would never. You are the honorable Prime Minister of our empire. It is only natural to come see the grand esoteric debate. Dugu Zhantian's beard trembled, his tone cold. Zhuge Changfeng laughed. Old Marshal, don't be so stiff. I'm here by myself out of boredom. Don't think too much of it. Humph, as if. The crowd cursed inside as well. Since when was Zhuge Changfeng that bored to come here without rhyme or reason? The game was most definitely afoot. The old fox's schemes aside, Dugu Zhantian had no time to mind him. His orders were to make sure esoteric debate ran smoothly, recalling the emperor's explicit and repeated warnings, a caution the emperor never showed before, led this old general to believe the esoteric debate of today had national ramifications. Dugu Zhantian barked, by His Majesty's grace, the esoteric debate will allow clansmen below the age of 30 to participate. No one older is allowed entry, or I will personally cut them down. The rules will be explained to you shortly by one of Divine Dragons, Jade Flute Divine Sword Fang Qiubai. Whoosh! A whistle of white clothes signified the entrance of an old man holding a jade flute and exuding a dominating air. Fang Qiubai Russell Tilda. A flick of his hand sent 5 jades taller than 2 people around the teleportation array. Looking at it, the people saw the stone form 5 huge gates. 8th grade army transfer, national elemental stones. Looking at the red, yellow, green, blue, and brown stones, Zhuge Changfeng and the 7 houses took a step back in shock. Fang Qiubai nodded. Correct, this is indeed the array passed down by imperial ancestor. Fang Qiubai then made a sign and the stones shone, each reflecting a beautiful scenery of beasts and birds. A 3rd-level spiritual beast soon passed by and watched the crowd curiously. Then came a 4th-level spiritual beast and howled, but was left to claw away at an invisible barrier, unable to reach them. Fang Qiubai's voice roused them from the shock. I will now present you all with the rules for this esoteric debate. As you have seen for yourselves, the center and the stone arrays are both unidirectional. You will shortly stand in the center array and I will then send you to the location of the final battle. But to return, the only way is through the national elemental stones. The crowd looked puzzled. Fang Qiubai continued, the 5 national elemental stones are a one-way door, but from the final battle location to here. To activate it you will need to find not only these stones but also their key. However, each array has a yin and yang key that must be joined to return. And the order of your arrival will mark your ranking. Simple enough. Huangpu Qingtian smiled. The others nodded, finding it pretty straightforward. It all came down to finding some keys and the way back. The greatest danger was merely deadly battles between clans, nothing of importance. Fang Qiubai raised an eyebrow and snickered. Simple is it? You won't be saying that after you find out the location. The clans stared at him distraught. Beast King Mountain. Fang Qiubai mocked SSS tilde. Gasps echoed around and some even felt their knees shaking. Beast King Mountain wasn't as deadly as all Beast Mountain range, but high-level spiritual beasts were nevertheless present. There were many 5th and 6th level spiritual beast kings roaming, hence the name Beast King Mountain. Even profound heaven and radiant stage experts would have a hard time scouring that place for anything. Not to mention the plenty of bone-tempering cultivators among the clans. There was no need to even fight when the spiritual beasts would kill them off before they could even meet. The hearts of everyone sank in despair. Why was this time's battle so cruel and deadly? Only 6 dragons, 1 phoenix and Zhuge Fan were the picture of calmness. Glancing at these monsters left them stomping in indignation. Was this place chosen with these freaks in mind? If you take away the 8 monsters, you'd only have average people. This is ridiculous. Fang Qiubai grinned at their silent protest, but of course, no danger comes unwarranted. It is slightly dangerous this time around, but the reward is up to the risk. These are 5 8th grade pills, brimming sacred pill. It will be up to each one of you to earn it. Say what? Zhuge Fan and Huangpu Qingtian were both affected. The brimming sacred pill was of most value to a radiant stage expert or those on the brink. Across the whole of Tianyu, this pill was the rarest of all. Not even the 7 houses had one. Huangpu Qingtian, Huangpu Qianyuan, and other peak profound heaven experts needed just one little pill and they would jump right into being a radiant stage expert with no strings attached. While to a radiant stage expert, it would boost their soul many times over. Worth it. Huangpu Qianyuan was moved as he looked at his son. He had been stuck at peak profound heaven stage for decades. This chance was godsent and yet, Huangpu Qingtian's face left him cold. God damn it. If this brat gets it, he'll eat it on the spot. Zhuge Changfeng frowned as he twirled his mustache. The old man has come out swinging. He is eager to begin his plan. While the 2nd and 3rd-rate clans looked on in forlorn depression, this is clearly meant for those monsters. Where among us do you see a radiant stage or peak profound heaven expert? Taking it will only make us pop like fireworks. It came with great fear and trepidation as to how cruel this event would be for them. This stage was practically designed to be the death of them. They were nothing more than cannon fodder, but to climb aboard a house, a timely help would get the attention they desperately yearned. Even if they were cannon fodder, they'd still risk it. Chapter 270, Beast King Mountain. Chapter 270, Beast King Mountain. Alright, youngsters. Time to go. Fang Qiubai made a hand sign and pointed at the dark mass in the center of the array in a dazzling fashion. A pillar of light sprung up straight to the sky and forced people to squint. Every clan's younger generation rubbed their eyes and their mouths twitched. But no matter how unwilling, they all walked on. Go. Go. Just go and die. They all cursed. No matter how they thought about it, Fang Qiubai's cheering felt more like a blatant wish for an untimely death. Not like they had a choice in the matter. So on they went, for their clan's honor, and for their future. Whoosh tilde. People sank into the pillar of light one after another. Gone for good. Zhuo Fan glanced at the array and said to Luo Yunhai's group, "The teleportation array is random and will split us up. No matter what happens, you are to search for each other first and foremost." "Yes, Steward Zhuo." The 10 young guards nodded and Luo Yunhai spoke gravely. "Don't worry, Brother Zhuo, my godfather put me through some scouting lessons and I'll quickly find you." Grinning, Zhuo Fan said, "It was a good thing after all, leaving you in Marshall's care all those years. I can rest easy now." Luo Yunhai's eyes shined with resolve. "Let's go." Zhuo Fan took his group through the light pillar. Luo Yunchang's side looked from afar and prayed for their safety. "Zhuo Fan, I will make you pay for killing my master." A sudden roar caught Zhuo Fan's attention. Yang Fu watched him filled with revenge and hatred, more obvious now that the white light separated them. Zhuo Fan was stunned. "Damn, forgot about that twerp. This guy is a coward anyway. He only waited for me to get in the array before barking. Ah, what a chicken." Zhuo Fan shook his head and sighed. He was gone. Yang Fu, however, was over the moon. He actually managed to provoke the monster. Yang Bangui walked over and mocked, "Spineless brat, try to refrain from being so despicable next time." The other houses also snickered, "Waiting for your enemy to be unable to do anything to you, if that isn't cowardice, what is? You've gone long on the path of a gutless rat." As they looked at him in ridicule, the rest of the 7 houses entered the pillar of light as well. Yang Fu gnashed his teeth, his face flushed as he followed them. The bustling place from moments ago soon turned quiet. Fang Qiubai found all participants gone and closed the array with another hand sign. Yet beyond his perception, 2 shadowy figures slipped past just as he finished. Whoosh! The towering light pillar died and Zhuo Fan found himself in the heart of a forest. He didn't even get to make sense of his surroundings as a roar grated his ears with a rancid smell and whistling wind signaling its arrival. A dozens of meter-tall bear rose behind him. With his rock-splitting paw, it smashed right for him. Even a 9th layer of bone-tempering cultivator would be hard-pressed to face such power. Snapping his head back, Zhuo Fan frowned. 4th-level spiritual beast, mountain-crushing bear? The giant paw was right in his face, yet all Zhuo Fan did was have his eye flash azure. The fierce bear paw came to a grinding halt and the giant bear was scared out of his mind as he ran with all his power. Zhuo Fan watched the disappearing humongous bear with a snicker. The azure flame's use isn't limited to all Beast Mountain range. All spiritual beasts are under its influence. This would make the trip to Beast King Mountain a breeze. While others had to painstakingly pay attention to any high-level spiritual beasts on the prowl, he was out on an evening stroll. The Beast King Mountain was his home turf. On the other hand, it was a nightmare for the rest of those poor suckers. Particularly those that had yet to enter the profound heaven stage. Since he was welcomed by a 4th-level spiritual beast, the others ought to be receiving more or less the same honor, no? I have to find Yunhai fast. Frowning, Zhuo Fan's wings unfolded and he took to the skies. Some flying spiritual beasts shot straight for him, but a flash of azure flame from Zhuo Fan's eyes cut their intent clean off. Whoosh tilde. Flashes of white dazzled the sky for the better part of the next hour. Yet Zhuo Fan never met another person. He sighed at how ridiculously vast the Beast King Mountain was. If he didn't find the others fast, who knew what might happen? "Save me." A charming voice entered his ears. Zhuo Fan paused. With how vicious the Beast King Mountain is, no normal person would be stupid enough to come here. This person has to be a contender. Among the many clans that joined, Drifting Flowers Edifices had the most girls. Should I or should I not? Zhuo Fan mulled it over for a second before flying down. I guess it won't be nice to watch your own ally bite the dust without helping. Since I won't find Yunhai anytime soon, I better lend a helping hand. Zhuo Fan sent out a soul ripple and locked onto the source of the sound. In an instant, he saw a huge lake in the distance, wide enough that it was impossible to see the other shore. The place was verdant and lush, framed perfectly by the sun's rays. But the water of the lake started to roil and billow as huge waves rose all over the place. A charming girl slammed into the water in great distress. Across from her was a 1/4-mile-long scarlet venomous serpent. Its eerie pair of sharp eyes looked at the panicking girl with hunger. 6th level spiritual beast, overpowering flood dragon. Zhuo Fan squinted in shock. That was no ordinary snake, but a water serpent descended from the mighty flood dragon. Such a spiritual beast was a natural king. It was a peak existence even among 6th level spiritual beast. Not even a common 7th level spiritual beast could contend with it. Zhuo Fan gasped in awe at the Beast King mountain hiding such a monster. Even more so to the bad luck this Missy had, in landing not just in its turf, but its home waters. In fact, she popped right in its goddamned open maw. It couldn't get any worse than that. SSS tilde. Flicking its red tongue, the serpent opened its maw ready to swallow the girl whole. The girl shuddered and curled up, giving up on herself. Zhuo Fan's right eye flashed with a golden ring and he appeared next to her. With another flash, they were gone. The savage serpent bit down but got nothing but fresh water. It looked around agape. Where'd she go? The more it looked around, the more shocked it became. Not for a second did the serpent believe that she was fast enough to escape its range. The only plausible answer was an illusion. It lifted its huge tail, creating a 50-meter wide splash. It rubbed its head with the tip in bewilderment. How come? Am I growing senile and have started seeing things? In another area, the girl closed her eyes and shivered in Zhuo Fan's embrace, waiting for the jaws of death to rob her life. She waited yet nothing came, not even pain. She only felt a bit chilly as the breeze traced her curves. The girl cracked her eyes open to see a broad chest and the blue sky. Zhuo Fan was paying attention to where he flew with a cold stare. But when he felt her squirming, he said, "You're all right, ah." Zhuo Fan's voice was stuck in his throat and his scalp went numb watching the nubile figure. The girl's naked. The girl looked at him and then at her silky smooth and uncovered skin before blushing and wailing, "Ah tilde, you rogue. Don't look. Close your eyes. You're the damn rogue. What are you doing coming here without clothes? Since when is drifting flowers edifices so deviant? What drifting flowers edifices? I know no drifting flowers edifices. I thought I told you to shut your eyes. Don't you dare look. Zip it. It's perfectly normal for a man to look, especially now. Go and wear something if you don't like it. You." She glared at him and huffed. Her eyes sparkled, on the verge of tears, and her face was growing flushed by the second. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.